All right, everybody, I think we're ready now. Sorry for the delay there. 2 minutes late. Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
Your Ben Joravsky show. Your Ben Joravsky show for Friday, June 12th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and bringing back the Ben Joravsky show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. A giant thank you to those unions for jumping on board and helping bring back the Ben Joravsky show. Oh my God. And of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. The Ben Joravsky show starts now. It is Friday, June 12th, or July 12th. And live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. Today on the program, it's another Ramana Rundown with Sun-Times editor Ramana Hussein. We welcome back the Heartland Mamas. And it's the return of our good friend and host of the Doris Davenport Show, Doris Davenport. And now your host, Chicago Reader columnist, doing weird things, playing air organ, Ben Joravsky.
Hello, everybody. Ben Joravsky here. We're calling this If It's Good Enough for the Tribune Friday. And here's why. All right, everybody. Recess is over. You heard me, D. No more alligator talk, all right?
Okay.
No more stories about the alligator. Oh, I know what you're saying. Oh, I really love the alligator. All right, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'll cut a deal with you. I'll let you talk about the alligator, but first, you have to have this civics lessons, all right? It's the equivalent of eating your vegetables before you eat your chocolate cake. All right, so today's civics lessons has to do with voter rights. Specifically, I'm talking about the lawsuit filed by Jason Gonzalez against Michael Joseph Madigan, having to do with their election in 2016. Let me take the deep dive. Let me take the setup. Give you the setup, folks. There was a story about it in today's Bright One. Let me just show you that story. There we go.
There you go, downloaders.
Okay.
Just for you.
Story in the Bright One, reminding me that Gonzalez filed a lawsuit. All right, let's go. 2016 was the year. Bruce Rauner was the governor of the state of Illinois. You remember him, D?
Yeah, I do.
He was the dastardly and evil Republican governor who wanted to use all his powers to destroy unions so that he could have more money for guys like him. And who was in his way? Michael Joseph Madigan. House Speaker, Democrat. Now, I've been battling Madigan for years and years, D, long before it was fashionable. But I got to tell you this, when it was Rauner trying to destroy unions versus Michael Joseph Madigan, guess whose side I was on? Michael Joseph Madigan's, all right? I can't believe it. For once, I was seeing eye to eye with Madigan. Anyway, Madigan is in a district on the southwest side of Chicago. Follow me, people. That's approximately, 60% Hispanic. A guy named Jason Gonzalez announced that he was going to run in the Democratic primary. Suddenly, there was fear in Madigan country. I could just imagine the scene, D, at the Southwest Side headquarters. Madigan convenes all of his top political aides, and Madigan says, "Oh, my God, I'm scared." That's my Michael Madigan.
Pretty good. Very good.
Hold on, let me eat an apple. Madigan loves apples. Anyway, I'm scared. I'm threatened. There's 60% Hispanic. My name's Madigan, an Irish name. His name is Gonzalez, a Hispanic name. Hence, all the voters can vote for him and not vote for me. I'll lose. At which case, one of his aides said, "Boss, here's what we're going to do. We're going to put a couple of guys with Hispanic names in the race. How about that?" And the voters will be so confused, they'll vote for the wrong Hispanic guy, and you will win. At which point, Madigan goes, "My God, you're a genius. Have a raise." I just imagined all this conversation. I don't even know if it took place, but, let's just say it did take place.
Sure.
Something like that. Actually, I don't think any aide had to suggest that little diabolical scheme to Michael Madigan, because people in the city of Chicago and the state of Illinois, Republicans and Democrats, have been trying to undercut their opposition by putting phony candidates in the race since before young Dennis was born. And, well, that wasn't that long ago. Before I was born. How about that, dude?
That was a long time ago.
Yeah, a long, long time ago. So anyway, out of nowhere came two Hispanics who nobody ever heard of. One named Barbosa, one named Rodriguez. Out of nowhere they emerged, folks, with enough nominating signatures to get on the ballot. And when the election was all over, Michael Joseph Madigan was victorious with 65% of the vote. Gonzalez had 27% of the vote. Rodriguez had 6%, and Barbosa had 2%. Poor Barbosa only got 2% of the vote. Anyway, Rauner was angry, cursed, foiled again by that evil Michael Joseph Madigan. Anyway, it's not over, folks. 2 years later, we're in court. Jason Gonzalez has filed a federal lawsuit against Madigan, arguing, follow me in this, folks, that by putting those two Hispanic-named candidates on the ballot, he, Madigan, effectively diluted the voting power of Hispanics in that district and therefore was acting unconstitutionally. I have my issues with this argument on many levels. This action has been done for years and years and years by all kinds of people. So, for instance, when the Shaw brothers did it to Jesse Jackson by putting another candidate in the race named Jesse Jackson, were they diluting the voting power of black voters when they did that? Even though everybody in the race was black? Just asking, okay? If I were a judge, I would ask that question. Furthermore, there's an underlying assumption here. And the assumption here, follow me in this, D, is that voters, Hispanic voters in Madigan's district are dimwits. That's the underlying assumption of Gonzalez's case. Follow me in this. The underlying assumption in Gonzalez's case is that voters in that district saw a bunch of names, Hispanic names, didn't know who was who. Like, I don't know that Gonzalez is the guy who's got most of the money and sending out most of the brochures and's got TV commercials as being attacked by a Madigan. Just a bunch of Hispanic names. I don't know which one is which. I'll just close my eyes and vote for whichever one I hit first. Now, I can understand why Republicans might have a view, a less than complimentary view of voters. Donald Trump right now is trying to win over swing voters in suburban districts by saying, I love the environment, even though every policy he has instituted is destroying the environment, and he thinks that's good enough to get voters to vote for him. So I can understand why Republicans would have such a dim view of the voters. I have a healthier view of the voters, and that's why I raised this question. What if the voters in that district actually voted for Barbosa and Rodriguez because they didn't want to vote for Gonzalez or Madigan? Did you think of that, D?
Not until now.
Yeah. What if? What if they were just exercising their right of choice? And they said, you know what? I don't want to vote for Madigan because he's the incumbent and I don't like his policies. And I don't want to vote for Gonzalez because, I don't know, I just don't like the guy. So I'll vote for the other guy, Rodriguez or Barbosa. Isn't that a possibility that they acted out of their own volition, their own choice? And I know what you're saying, D. I know you're saying never, ever, ever would a voter vote for a lesser candidate if they have two well-known candidates in the race. And that's where I will raise the Tribune defense. If you recall, in 2016...
Stop pointing at me.
The choice voters faced in the presidential election was Hillary Clinton, the Democrat, and Donald John Trump, the Republican. And the Chicago Tribune's editorial board said, you know what? We don't like either one. We're going to go for the libertarian guy named Gary Johnson. Yeah. Remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
So, Jason Gonzalez and your Republican lawyers, if it's good enough for the Tribune, it's good enough for the Hispanic voters on the Southwest side. We got a great show today, everybody. Romano Hussein will be here. It's Friday, Romano Rundown. We're going to be talking, I compared Jeffrey Epstein to the Smollett Gate story. There's a lot to do the deep dive there. The way in which people try to manipulate the legal process. We'll be talking to Romano Hussein about that, plus a whole bunch of other things. Those Ricketts are up to no good with their property tax
damn
scams.
Dirty Ricketts.
We'll see if Romano is still aboard the Cub bandwagon, even after it turns out that Todd Ricketts is playing all kinds of games with property taxes. And maybe we'll get a little movie review for Romana. She's a big fan of the movie Yesterday, as is Leah. So we'll be talking about maybe that movie as well. And then, of course, Heidi Henry and Murray Briel, the co-hosts of the Heartland Mamas from the northwest suburbs, the western suburbs. And they'll be talking about all kinds of rural issues, suburban issues. Can Democrats build a base of support in Trump land? And then Doris Davenport will be here, the star of the Doris Davenport Show, and she's all fired up. She wants to talk about the presidential elections, and I'm ready to talk about that as well. So plenty of political talk, national, state, and local. But before we do any of it, the doctor in the news.
Hey, guys, how's it going? Not a doctor. Name's Dennis. Never been a doctor. It's the middle of the final day of the week. Ben, what are your plans this weekend?
No, let me just say this.
What?
I have to say, my plans is to kick back and just watch more movies, being a weekend.
Typical Ben weekend.
But I want to give a shout out to one John Gleason Teskey.
Yes.
A.K.A. JGT.
That's right.
And John Gleason Teskey is getting married in the beautiful city of Milwaukee.
Yeah.
All right? A.K.A. JGT is getting married this weekend in Milwaukee. And guess who's going to the wedding?
Wait, me? I'm going to the wedding.
Yes, indeed.
I was sitting there like, wait, who is? Oh, no, it's me. I'm going. That's my good friend. He listens to the show quite a bit. Yeah. Any advice you can give JGT on the married life?
You know what? I've been married for how many years? I've been married now? Hold on, let me do the math, D.
Okay, we're not doing anything.
37 years, man.
37.
Yeah, I love marriage.
Well, give him some advice to get through year one?
You know, year one's a tough one. All right, JGT, I'm gonna give you a little advice. Year one is a tough one. All right, year one is sort of like what freshman biology is for all those kids who come to college thinking they want to be doctors, and then all of a sudden they take freshman biology and they're like, oh my God, it's a lot harder than dissecting frogs. Yeah, it's tough that year one. You get through year one, boy, it's smooth sailing. All right. Be nice to your wife. You know what she'll do for you? She'll make you avocado and cheese sandwiches every day.
Nice. Oh, I got a text from JGT. He's my friend. Hold on. What's it say? It says, oh, I'm scared. That's what it says. All right. Way to get him excited about tomorrow, buddy.
Anyway, good luck to you.
Before we get to do before I go to that wedding and before Ben watches a bunch of movies like he always does, we have to talk about that national news happening this afternoon. Another one bites the dust. Another Donald Trump White House staff member is leaving. You've been voted off the island, Labor Secretary Alex Acosta.
God, yeah.
Ben, this has to be a presidential record, right? All these people who leave this administration.
I haven't been keeping tab. Do you have a
I think we're in the hundreds. We have to be in the hundreds.
Yeah.
For real. For real, the hundreds. I think so. Acosta, the U.S. Labor Secretary, under fire for having granted creep Jeffrey Epstein immunity from federal prosecution in 2008 after the billionaire was investigated for having run a child sex trafficking ring, has resigned. He gave a press conference about it, or more like Donald Trump gave it. He was there as well, did most of the talking. Trump said Acosta was a great labor secretary.
Oh,
Not a good one, a great one.
Okay.
But then he kind of contradicted it because Trump also said he didn't do a great job, but a very good job.
Oh, wow. Okay. He forgot what he said at the start of the press conference?
If words mean something, Trump, stay consistent. The president then told reporters, and believe this if you want to, guys, but I'm not gonna. Acosta called him this morning and said that it was the secretary's decision to resign, not Trump's.
Okay. All right. Okay. Let's just deal with that one. First of all, phone calls were made. So of the least important phone calls made were the ones that the Trump advisors made to Acosta, letting him know that Trump felt it was time for him to leave because he was embarrassing the president. Although how this president could claim that he could be embarrassed by anything. I mean, this guy's record as a sexual predator is horrendous. He was pals with Epstein. Let's not forget that. And so I don't know what Acosta could do to embarrass Trump on that level. Secondly, the more important issue, and I hope we get to the bottom of this, who made the calls, and I'm presuming calls were made, that convinced Acosta that it was a good idea to give such an easy sentence to Jeffrey Epstein. And Acosta's explanation, which we talked about at length yesterday, D. Remember he had that press conference 2 days ago where he was trying to save himself with his lame explanation about why he tried to blame it all on the prosecutor in Miami, who's a Democrat. Like somehow or other, the local prosecutor was fault because, the local prosecutor, wasn't ready to go hard at Epstein. Well, you could have done it, Acosta. My belief, D, is that powerful people got to these prosecutors, and that's why I believe there is a connection to Smollett Gate here in Chicago. We've been obsessed with a far minor crime here in the city of Chicago. People are just outraged at Kim Foxx because she took a phone call. We know who called Fox, all right? But we don't know who called Acosta and who called the prosecutors in New York, and it's bipartisan. So I don't expect Republicans, usually Republicans, when it's a Republican at stake, they'll totally, bury the evidence. They'll try to divert attention to the Democratic problems and stuff to avoid hammering hard at a Republican. Well, Republicans, it's bipartisan in this case. Epstein was pals with Bill Clinton, a big sleazoid, and he was pals with Clinton, and he was pals with Trump. So there's no excuse, Republicans, to bury this like you usually try to bury crimes and bad behavior of Republicans. So I'm hoping these questions will be answered in the coming months.
So get lost, Acosta, and make way for our new acting labor secretary. Why are people still taking these jobs? His name is Patrick Pizzella.
I know nothing about the man.
I think that's the point. Now, we could sit here and tell you all about this feller, but why bother? Because while Mr. Pizzella was highly recommended by Acosta, the president made sure to highlight the acting part of his new title. According to Trump, he has already been told that he is going to be the acting labor secretary.
Yeah,
so.
Well, I think Acosta was the acting labor secretary, too. He's acting like he was a secretary who cared about labor. That's the acting part. The Republican Party these days and Donald Trump are so hostile to unions. They're big supporters of the Janus case. They want to undercut unions. Again, one more time, people, it's not that complicated. The less power unions have, the more power Republicans have, because unions generally support Democrats. It's a political situation. It's a political issue that Republicans try to pretend there's a larger principle at stake. So the labor secretaries that Donald Trump would appoint would be hostile to unions. So therefore, it's a joke. They're all acting labor secretaries.
That's really funny. They're acting to care about it. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
Got a million of them.
So, Pat Pizzella, the president's partial pick to pack a perfect pair of pickled peppers.
Did you just come up with that?
I wrote it down.
Oh, okay.
Save your money. Keep that Pizzella pizza parlor idea in the back burner, and don't get comfy, because, dude, you'll be gone in like 2 months.
Actually, I'm going to do a deep dive. You asked me what I'm going to do to the weekend? I'm going to look into this guy's past.
Pizzella?
Oh, the guy didn't know nothing about Acosta. I wasn't paying attention. I have to confess, confession to make. I did not pay attention when Acosta got the nomination. I was following the fight over Acosta's predecessor, whose name escapes me at the moment, but it was some Republican.
Glad you were focused on that fight.
He was the guy. He was the guy who was at. No, I actually talked about it at the time. I want to say, did I have a show back then, or had I already been fired?
I don't know.
I can't remember. But anyway, he was really notoriously anti-union, and Trump was just blatantly anti-union by putting him up. The guy who runs the hamburger chain, and he had to step back, and they put in Acosta, and I just sort of forgot about the whole issue until Acosta's name emerged with the stories about how he, sugar-coated that punishment against Epstein. And then I was like, well, why would a prosecutor be named a labor secretary? And turns out Acosta was on the National Labor Relations Board. So there was more or less a correlation there. But so I'm going to do a deep dive. That's what I'm going to do this weekend, D. And when I come back on Tuesday, I'll give you a full report.
And he'll be fired by the time.
Yeah, that's true. There'll be another guy to have to look into.
All right, moving on here. Oh, also, now Axios is reporting that President Trump is seeking to remove Dan Coates as Director of National Intelligence. What? You know anything about him?
Dan Coates, the former senator of Indiana.
Oh, okay. And no deep dive needed there.
Yeah, well, I don't understand. This has completely caught me off guard. Hold on while I say, habada. I know you think I know absolutely everything about everything. People are like, Ben, what do you think about the XYZ? I don't know why he's firing Coates. I must confess that. But, your first point is your best point. If you take a job with Donald Trump, you have to walk in there with knowing that one day you're most likely to get fired.
All right, moving on here. So there's a new book coming out July 16th titled American Carnage. And you know how book titles work these days. There's a lot more words to follow that. American Carnage on the Front Lines of the Republican Civil War and the Rise of President Trump. The book features candid quotes from politicians speaking on their time working with our 45th president. Former House Speaker Paul Ryan is one of those politicians. And friendly he was not toward the president. Thanks to TheGuardian.com, we have a few Paul Ryan quotes to share with all of you, so let's do that. Once again, these quotes are from former House Speaker Paul Ryan on working with Donald Trump in D.C. from the book American Carnage. Quotes, "We've gotten so numbed by it all, not in government, but where we live our lives. We have a responsibility to try and rebuild. Don't call a woman a horse face. Don't cheat on your wife. Don't cheat on anything. Be a good person. Set a good example." More quotes here. "I told myself I got to have a relationship with this guy," talking about Donald Trump, "to help him get his mind right, because I'm telling you, he didn't know anything about government. I wanted to scold him all the time." And one more quote here. This is Paul Ryan in regards to working with Trump. "Those of us around him really helped to stop him from making bad decisions all the time. We helped him make much better decisions, which were contrary to kind of what his knee-jerk reaction was. Now I think he's making some of those knee-jerk reactions."
I would love to hear what Heidi Henry has to say about this. She's very outspoken. One of the Heartland Mamas is coming in very soon. Let me say this about Paul Ryan, the former Speaker of the House who represented a district in southern Wisconsin. Where were you when we needed you? Now, it's all good that you're getting these nice quotes for a book now that you're no longer in office. But my problem with the Republican parties in this particular issue is that they rolled over and would not confront Donald Trump. Now, I understand. They realized that their voters, that their base was enamored with Donald Trump. And but sometimes you have to do the unpopular thing. It's the old story in Chicago with independents and reformers who have the guts to stand up to all-powerful mayors like a Daley or Emanuel. I respect them. Voters in general will respect them, in my opinion. And so if you lose, you lose. You stepped out anyway, Paul Ryan. But if you felt that strongly about Donald Trump's character or lack thereof, you should have made that clear all along. And I'm sure there's many policy issues, particularly health care. I mean, it's beyond... Yes, there's character issues, but Donald Trump's behavior toward Obamacare, which is the one little sliver, and it's really flawed, one little sliver of healthcare that we've emerged with over the last, 60 years to guarantee people healthcare, basic healthcare rights. That's been under siege by Donald Trump and Republicans for the last, 8 years or so since Obama got it through Congress without any Republican votes. So, where were you there on that issue? Something a fundamental issue that affects Americans, not blue states or red states, but every state. So I have a little trouble, D, with Paul Ryan saying, at least John McCain, when push came to shove, voted against killing Obamacare. I have a little trouble with Paul Ryan suddenly coming up and emerging and finding his inner courage now that he's no longer has to be answered to the voters.
Typical behavior of a guy with a first name for a last name. No offense, Heidi Henry.
Oh, yeah.
Now, of course, we'll keep you posted on these stories as today's program rolls along, but we're moving right along. We're about to find out what's going on locally. It's time for What Else is News? The week when Chicago, Illinois turned into Jacksonville, Florida. Oh, that's never good. That's never good, all right? We have more Gatorgate updates. Hot damn, this story is awesome. Update number 1. Yes, that damn alligator is still in the Humboldt Park Lagoon. It's been in there for more than 3 days. And it's suspected that the alligator was likely someone's domestic pet that was released. Hey, person who allegedly dropped that alligator in the lagoon. Thanks for the awesome news story and incredible content, but you're a crazy person. Seriously, why did you do that? Who does that? Update number 2. The city of Chicago has gone gator crazy. You can't see it, but Ben's wearing gator shoes right now. He's got them covered up. He's going gator crazy. No, apparently we have given the alligator a name now.
Oh.
A poll went up online, and it's official. He's now Chance the Snapper.
Okay. Who's taking credit for that? Jason McGrath, guest on this show.
Yeah.
I was the one who came up with that name.
That was me. No credit?
I just did a Jason McGrath impression on the show.
Guys,
Great impression.
come on, guys. That was me.
All right.
Oh, God.
Anyway. Benny the Bull, the Chicago Bulls mascot.
Man, go Bulls.
Stopped by to see the gator. It's July. Probably hot as hell in that costume, but hey, whatever.
Did
Alligators.
Zach Levine show up?
Nope. Zach Levine did not show up.
Did Wendell Carter Jr. show up?
Nope.
The Laurie Markin didn't show up.
None of them showed up. It was just the mascot.
How about Joe Cowley? By the way, you can listen to my interview with Joe Cowley. Download it right now. Bulls beat writer. It's interesting stuff for you Bulls fans.
Oh, that was a shameless plug, huh?
Hey, by the way, I just want to say this one more time. Lori Lightfoot, I saw you call it Gatorgate. You stole that from me. All right? Talk about shameless. Good God.
And it's pretty easy. Put gate on the end of something.
Oh, if
You
it's
know
so
what I mean?
easy, why didn't anybody else think of it? Oh, pause as he goes,
We are pioneers here on the Ben Joravsky Show. Trailblazers, baby.
By the way, I also noted that Lori Lightfoot's been singing Gator Got Your Granny a lot.
she hasn't.
Everybody said it was a shame. His mama was working on a chain game. Poke Saturday.
Please stop.
Oh, sorry.
Please stop. I don't know what that song is.
That's Leah's favorite song by Tony Joe White, okay?
I knew it. I knew that was her favorite.
Yeah.
And, the Block Club Chicago neighborhood news website, they've put out Gator Watch 2019 t-shirts.
Can we give a shout out to Jen Sabella? She's been all over this story. By the way, you can download the Ben Joravsky interview with Jen Sabella, huh? How about that?
There we
Okay.
go.
Jen Sabella's got her finger on the pulse of Chicago, and I saw on Instagram. Yeah, D, I was on social media. Instagram.
Ooh.
Ever heard of it?
Stop.
Anyway, Jen was selling Gator t-shirts. I'm like, why don't we ever think of stuff like that?
We don't have one t-shirt.
Anyway, so we didn't think of that. Jen Sabella's selling Gator tea. Hey, you know what? Good. Of all this, we could be talking about TIFF deals. All right. I of course probably rather talk.
Oh yeah, give it about 20 minutes. You'll be talking about that.
Anyway, Gator
All right,
tea.
we got more here. And update number 3. While we still don't know the last name of the gentleman who has been trying to rescue the alligator for the last 3 days, we now know what Alligator Bob sounds like.
Oh,
And no, he sounds nothing like my impression.
what
that
was
I
your
did the other
impression
day.
one more time?
Ah, man, that gator, man, he's slippery. I'm going to get that sucker. You just hang tight. Hold on. Give me a 6-pack Miller Lite. I'm going to get this gator, all right?
Okay.
You damn better believe I'm going to get that thing. Sounds nothing like that.
Okay.
A little bummed out, honestly,
All right,
by that. But
Maybe if he sounded like that, he'd have caught the gator by now.
gator. Gator. No, it doesn't sound anything like that. Here's Alligator Bob with the latest. Sorry to disappoint, guys.
This is a awfully big body of water. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. And we're talking about a needle that moves constantly.
He's checked the floating traps he hand curated.
Right now it's a combination of drumsticks, rats,
ABC 7
and smelt.
Wow.
Well, as far as the gator goes, that's a pretty good offering.
You got to
We're
give
hoping
her
that
credit. That
the
was
wind
funny. Yum.
blowing the scent across the water will catch his attention.
We're all speculating on whether he grew up in somebody's, bathtub or backyard or something.
He's enjoying the 5 feet of water. He probably was raised in 6 inches. If we could find the animal, we can capture the animal.
There he was.
Oh, was that Gator? Was he the one who said he's enjoying the 5 feet of water? Was that him?
Yeah.
Oh, man. What by the way, any interviews with Micah in that thing?
No interviews with Micah Uterick, our guest.
Yeah, Micah Uterick did guest the other day, announced, he goes, Ben, I won't be able to come on the show for about another 6 weeks because I have to finish my book on Bernie Sanders. I said, oh, that's cool. Meanwhile, he's at the lagoon.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Micah, get back to work on that Bernie Sanders book. Ben, the Gator. I need a Gator update. He was the one. Remember, I go, how did that Gator get in there in the first place? To which Micah said, duh, somebody put him in there. Like, oh, yeah, I've been watching too much Stranger Things. And I believe it's a Stranger thing, man. It comes in from the underground.
It's a Stranger thing,
Man.
Stranger
You
Things.
seen Stranger Things yet?
Never.
Oh, no, you don't have
Never.
Netflix, yeah.
Even if I did, I wouldn't. All I watch is Trailer Park Boys.
I was
on
up late last night. I watched the whole episode. Give me $10. I won't tell you what happens.
Okay, I'm not taking your money. And finally here, because it was in Humboldt Park, I guess eventually someone was going to put a camera and a microphone in one of these people's face. Here's a hipster on Gatorgate.
Oh, they quoted a hipster.
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
Boom!
Oh, no. Was that Micah?
No, it's not Micah.
Oh, God.
He saw some catfish and some turtles.
Is that what he did? Okay.
Not a gator. Isn't that right, buddy?
I've seen a whole lot of catfish, some turtles. No gators yet, though.
That dude was so stoned. Humboldt Park.
All right.
So just like that, you're now in the know of what's going on locally. Yeah, that gator's still in the lagoon.
All right.
And now you'll have an answer the next time someone asks you, hey, what else is
All right,
news?
let me tell you something. Micah, Miles, and Romano Hussein, our next guest, who's sitting
What about
here.
Gator Bob?
And
This
Gator
is an awfully big body of water. We're looking for a needle in a haystack.
Okay.
And we're talking about a needle that moves constantly.
That needle moves constantly.
They all agree you did a great job. Give yourself a raise. Take it out of petty cash. We got Romano sitting here. We're going to be talking a lot of issues when we return.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
Hey, playing now at Steppenwolf Theater, the world premiere of Ms. Black for President. It's inspired by the true, that's true as in it really happened, TRUE story of Joan Jett Black, America's first drag queen presidential candidate. You know who created it, D?
No.
It was created by Tony nominee Tina Landau.
Oh.
And you know who else created it?
No.
Oscar winner Terrell Alvin McCraney. You know him, Moonlight. Oh, yeah. For tickets, visit steppenwolf.org. That's Steppenwolf, like the rock group from the 60s, .org.
Hang tight, millennials.
All right, guys, can you feel it in the air? Yeah, it's summertime, but also this weekend, like in a few hours, Square Roots Festival. Oh, yeah. I know, Ben's gonna. You're actually going, aren't you, Ben?
Yep. I'm going to be there when I'm not watching movies. I'm going to be dancing.
All right, well, you listen closer. Stop dancing and listen close, all right? Because this is what you're in for. Mm-hmm. It's almost time for Lincoln Square's summer party. Ben's going to it. Join us for a truly local festival featuring neighborhood food. What food you hope is going to be there?
Chicken.
Okay. One
fried chicken. Man,
He's a simple man.
Salivating when Alligator Bob was talking about that drumstick he put out there.
Okay.
I would dive into a lagoon for that drumstick.
No, you wouldn't. Featuring neighborhood food and regional craft beer. I know you don't drink beer, Ben. It's cool. As well as unique and exciting market vendors, while over 50 bands and artists from around the world entertain on 4 stages. No, Ben will not be on any of those stages. You're welcome. Your donations support Lincoln Square, Ravenswood Chamber of Commerce, free concerts and farmers markets, and Old Town School of Folk Music's financial aid programs and outreach programming. People, it's happening this weekend. They're setting up right now to party. Square Roots Festival, July 12th, today, 13th, and 14th, all this weekend at Lincoln Square. Ben, what day are you going?
Every day.
Every day.
Yeah.
Look for Ben Joravsky. Just look for the guy in the Bulls hat. Yeah. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
All right. Thank you very much, Steve. Ben Joravsky here. Romana Sain in the studio, editor of the Chicago Sun-Times. Every Friday she comes on the show. We do the Romana Rundown and have a whole list of things to talk about important issues of the day. Romana's already announced to me that she doesn't really relish talking about the alligator, but I have to ask you some alligator questions.
I can talk about it. I just think it's a story and it's a fun story. Do I think it's Watergate? No. I'm sure somebody will call it Watergator or something, but
no, Gatorgate.
Somebody did mention that a couple days ago, but we heard someone from across the room in the copy desk say something about Gatorade, but I just think it's a story.
Slow news week. That's what I was telling Ben.
It's a story, and I think I guess some people are telling me, well, people think it's fun, and I'm not saying it's not. It should be a story, but do we need to send the whole Chicago media?
All right. Well, let me ask you
over there to do. I'm someone that went to India with my parents a lot in the summers, and me and my siblings, and it's like an animal in a body of the water. Is that really a news story? I don't know. I think it's a very first world thing, and it's kind of sad because it's like the alligator just didn't show up there. We all know it's because someone had a pet and then was too stupid to realize it can actually grow, and then they put it in the in the lagoon. Yeah. It's sad. It's like people do this all the time. This isn't the first time we've done a story like this. It's just the first time we're going haywire over a story like this.
Well, all right.
And they can't catch the alligator.
So, okay, let me ask you this. So, this has been on my mind. I've never worked for a newspaper above the level of reporter. So I've never actually gotten to sit on an editorial meeting. I've never actually seen it.
You can come and sit come and sit with us and see how exciting it is. It really isn't.
So I've seen watching Stranger Things this week, and then there's scenes in Stranger Things. I don't want to give it away. Season 3.
You're talking about the male reporters.
There's the editorial editors sit around and what's the news, and they we should do this story, we should do that story, and then I see movies. I've seen it with All the President's Men, where they sit around. What are we going to cover, this and that? So give us a little insight at the Sun-Times editors meetings. Are they going, we got to send out Mark Brown to cover Gator? How does it work?
Well, when I did watch that scene, I remember looking over to Meg. I go, "Oh, badly dressed male reporters. That's not something I haven't seen." I wasn't joking. It's true. But usually, I think newsrooms back then probably were all white males, and these still predominantly are white males.
Aren't they editors? Aren't those guys the editors?
Yeah, it's like the editors sitting around. Yeah. And so we do that too. But it's kind of funny that we were mentioning that because yesterday we were joking about how all the guys were at one end of the table and all the women were the other.
At the editorial meeting?
Yeah, but it's just that I guess we just self-segregate. But there is usually an editor. She was gone yesterday, and she usually breaks up the males. But it's a little different. It's obviously it's they probably make it a little more entertaining than it is, and we had an intern sit with us a couple days ago, which shows you that you can come in and sit down.
Even I can.
We do talk about, we go over what's on the budget for the day, because we have a budget that we start off, and all the editors kind of add stories that the reporters they edit are working on. And so we kind of go over all the stories, and then we decide what's going to be on page one and what stories we're going to refer. And refer is like the smaller little stories that we have with pictures. So we kind of go over that. And then, sometimes there's arguments as to whether or not a certain story is important to be on page one. Or, the alligator story, for example, I know on day 2 or the day before, we were one of the copy editors is like, putting the alligator story on page 1 again. Didn't we already do this? And
were you the killjoy in the room?
No, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. I just said that I'm kind of sick of the story. I've told that to the reporters, and I know reporters who got sent out on the scene, and they even said, "Oh, am I an alligator?" The young reporter who was covering it last night, he asked, he saw me, and he's like, "Were you in the meeting? Do I have to do alligator watch?" I'm like, "Yeah, you probably do." But we have 2 interns out there today.
Okay.
Just to show you that we're all, because one a couple media outlets are doing this. And it's getting a lot of hits. Of course, we got to cover it too. But, you sit around and you talk about, and then the discussion was that our photographer, Ashley Resin, who's really great, she got a really good picture of the alligator and,
With the duck.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that was a great, and that was on the front page.
Yeah.
Of the
So that's why the argument was made. Well, Ashley got this great shot, so it would be great to have it, on another day. And obviously, the Sun-Times has always been one of those papers. It's, I guess, because it's a tabloid front page. You want to capture people, and I guess this is really capturing the audience in Chicago. So, so that's how the meetings are usually. Sometimes they're, we go off on tangents and make jokes. There are some people who are pretty funny in that room.
All right. Well, I have to say this, and I have to make a concession to the Tribune. And it kind of kills me to say it. We did it yesterday, but remember, Dee, we compare headlines. You know that. And generally, the Sun-Times annihilates the Tribune when it comes to clever headlines. But yesterday, I had to concede that the Tribune's headline was pretty clever. What was it again, man? I sent it to you.
You did. You didn't send me the headline. You just said that. Wait.
It was the headline that I said. It was a text. But anyway, the Sun-Times was Gator Gazers, because the story was about people who came to look at the alligator. I think the Tribune. Catch you later, Gator. I was like, oh man, the Tribune thought of that?
There are a lot of former Sun-Times people who work at the Tribune. Okay. I should mention that.
Just those people.
It's the old Sun-Times guy.
I know.
Let me just say this.
They come up with good headlines.
Yeah,
sometimes.
well, they're back to Snoozeville today. I'm just going to tell you, Ramona. Humboldt Park Lagoon Gator evades capture for third day. Oh, there you go. That must have been the old Tribune guy writing that story. The Sun-Times guy had the day off. What was the headline in today's Bright one?
Ben wants to be the headline guy so bad.
No, I'm a terrible. I'm like, are you kidding me?
Oh.
My headlines are terrible. Nowadays at the Reader, I write my own headlines, and they're awful. God, I make the Tribune guy look clever.
I mean, there's guys and women in the newsroom. They just come up with them really quick. It takes me time.
Here's the Bright one. This one is this. All right, sorry, Tribune. We're back
Gator
to
crashers.
Benny the Bull showed up, and so the headline is Gator Crasher. Get it? Gate Crasher? Oh. Gator. My beloved Bright one. We're back to
and so people do throughout words like that. Like, some people just come up with it really quick. It takes me. I've come up with headlines before, but not like those. Like, them people are just really good at it, and it's there's like 2 or 3 people in the newsroom. I mean, in the editors meeting who just like kind of come up with it.
That
Sometimes all of us are just sitting around thinking about it, and they're like, well, we'll come up with something. And the copy desk guys, if they don't get it right away, or if the headline doesn't come up right away, they usually get something.
If you guys are ever in a bind or a pinch, we're always here. Come on by. We'll
trust me. You don't want me going anywhere near
I'll let
a
them know,
headline.
but
we'll think of something.
You guys are both welcome to come.
I will send Dennis to help out with the headlines.
Yeah, I think I'd be good at that.
All right, let's switch on to the topic that I've been wanting to talk to you about all week. I pass you in the hallway and I go, I got to ask you about this. And this is no joke. Jeffrey Epstein, the sleazoid, who got a pass from 2 different jurisdictions. Ramona, I don't know if I sent you the story. I meant to send it if I didn't. Everybody knows about what happened. What went down in Florida with Acosta, the former U.S.
Labor.
Well, he's former Labor Secretary. He was a prosecutor.
Well, he's
then.
not resigning yet, but he's going to be resigning.
No,
right?
we broke the news. They had a press conference. Yeah.
I know they had a press conference with Trump, but I didn't know he stepped down immediately. I thought he said he was going to.
All right, so he gave him a light sentence, but then there was a hearing in New York in 2011. We talked about this yesterday, where the Cyrus Vance's office, who's the district attorney in New York, sent a prosecutor to argue that Epstein not have the highest ranking or rating for being a sexual offender.
Yeah.
And she was actually arguing that for more leniency, which is so bizarre. The prosecutors are generally the ones who are throwing a book at people. And then let's contrast that to Smollett and how the Jussie Smollett story. Everybody in Chicago is fixated on that story because Kim Fox, the prosecutor, took a phone call from some unnamed relative of Jussie Smollett.
Yeah.
So everybody's assuming that she pulled her punch as a result of that phone call. I have to believe that somebody was calling prosecutors on behalf of Epstein in both New York and Florida.
I mean, this case is just, I don't know. It's the allegations are disgusting. And the fact that, I think they said in New York, he's a sex offender, so he has to check in with the NYPD regularly.
Yeah.
And he didn't have to do that. And that's what I've seen in reports, and I find that appalling. Like, if someone's convicted in a sex crime, and under the deal that was made with Acosta, he didn't get charged with a federal crime. And then he served like 13 months in prison. And then I think in Palm Beach, Florida, he was in a special section of the jail. I just feel like this case with the Jesse Smollett case, first of all, I just want to clarify, I think they're completely different cases. Because the Jesse Smollett case, although it is about Jesse Smollett, in the end, it's about the crime itself is nowhere near as the allegations against Jeffrey Epstein and the crimes that he committed, that he's been convicted of. And then with the Kim Foxx, it's like what impropriety happened at the top level. Not that much. I mean, people do care about what Jesse Smollett did, but calling in disorderly conduct at the end of the day isn't the crime of the century. Yeah. Now this crime is just mind-boggling. Just the things he was able to get away with. I don't know if you've read, interviews by the victims. Mm-hmm. This young woman said that she was accosted by, I think, a woman that Epstein knew, and she basically, it was like this pyramid scheme, like this sex trafficking pyramid scheme, because I think he'd get these young girls to get more girls. And this young woman said that she was accosted when she was 15. Yeah. And I think she said that she was raped by Jeffrey Epstein at 15, and she said he knew exactly what he was doing. I read elsewhere that there was a young woman, I think Epstein was at her birthday party when she turned 16, and he made some sort of joke about how she was getting older. And these allegations, I just think, are so disgusting. And I feel like there are so many people who enabled him, including, I guess he had this London/New York socialite friend, this woman, which I just think these allegations are so disgusting. And I think, he's friends with Bill Clinton and Donald Trump. And you have to wonder, like, how could they not know that this was happening? They seem to have hung around with him enough. In the case of Donald Trump, he did know. Yeah, because he made that comment about how, he's like me and he likes hanging out with beautiful women, really young women or something. I don't know. I just find it so appalling. And I think for years, this kind of behavior was accepted. I mean, I know we talked about Woody Allen before, but I never watched Manhattan. But isn't that like he has a 16-year-old girlfriend? And let's face it, everybody always tells me what a great movie that is. And I'm like, isn't that the one where he has a 16-year-old girlfriend? Like, why didn't anybody think that was crazy back then? Yeah. Like, was it considered normal? That's what I'm just saying. Like, was this normal for a 40-something-year-old guy to be?
I'm old enough to have seen the movie, and I got to tell you, I went through this phase where I really like we're now doing Woody Allen Gate, but I loved Annie Hall, and Manhattan came right after Annie Hall, so I eagerly went to see Manhattan, and I found that really weird. That with Muriel Hemingway,
right?
Yeah, and I was like, this is not. This is weird.
Was that normal? That's what I'm saying. Like, was that considered normal? Because people like who say that Woody Allen, like, they try to separate his crimes or what his allegations of his crimes are from, his movies. They always tell me they're like, oh, but Manhattan's great. But I'm just like, that's just so skeevy. I don't know. I just find that appalling.
I have a lot of issues. No, Manhattan, I couldn't watch it more than once. And listen, this is an issue in a lot of movies.
No,
now we're on a tangent here, but
of course,
they generally the male lead is much older. Yeah. Than his female love interest.
Yeah, and I'm just saying that I'm not saying that this is the first time it's happened. I mean, might be talking about R. Kelly. So this is something that's been happening for centuries, probably since the beginning of time. But I think a lot of people do turn a blind eye to it. Or I don't know. I don't know if men think this is something that's so wonderful. Like, you know what I mean? It's just so disgusting. Like, that you could get away with something like that. Well, and it's because, I don't know if it's because the wealth or,
In this particular case, and I have no proof of this, I just have my gut feeling.
That there was someone top.
Some powerful people intervened on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein. I believe that most prosecutors, if you just ask them individually what they thought about Jeffrey Epstein's behavior. They would not say, well, Woody Allen did it in Manhattan.
No, I'm not.
I know you're
I'm
not saying that, but
yeah.
I'm saying they would find it unacceptable.
Yeah.
But they acted differently. They behaved differently. In this case, they treated it differently. They gave him leniency that they wouldn't give anybody else. And Romano, when I see that, maybe I've been covering Chicago politics.
Who do you think it was? Like, if you had to guess,
if I had to guess,
yeah,
my guess would have the initials BC.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
or DT, or both. But I that's my guess. Those two names, Bill Clinton and Donald Trump, are linked to this case, and I do believe we should have an investigation.
I agree.
The reason I keep bringing up Smollett Gate is like we're so fixated and focused on this misdemeanor.
That's just people in Chicago.
Donald Trump tweets about it.
Well, that's Donald Trump.
Yeah,
I mean,
he's got a lot of
I don't know
power.
if the president is someone that you should use as an example about being fixated on things. But I know the thing is, I think with Smollett Gate, we're the people who are asking questions and aren't just going out on a witch hunt on Kim Fox. They just want to know the answers and some accountability, which I think is needed in the Epstein case too. I don't think it's just a problem involving him, because this guy had an island. Bill Clinton went on his plane several times. Didn't he have a plane called Lolita or something? Mm-hmm. So I think anybody that is connected to this, I think they need to investigate more and dig deeper. And I don't know, maybe they won't dig deeper.
Well, that's what I was going to
because
ask you.
there's people on top still. Donald Trump, the president, who was friends with this guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, he can make a quick call.
There was a movie, this is before your time, in the 80s. I think it's called Personal Services. It's sort of a dark comedy. And
who's in it?
You know, I can't remember. It was, Julie Waters was in it. It was or Walters, I think her name is. It's a 1980s British comedy directed, I can't believe still remember this, by one of the members of Monty Python. But the premise is in there is there's a madam who has a brothel in London that many powerful men visit. And the culminating scene, I'll give it away, everybody, because you're never going to see it. You never see it. Is when there's a court case and she's battling for her life at this court case, and you look up and the judge who's deciding the matter, you recognize him as one of the visitors to the brothel, and she wins. Okay, so that's a comedy from the 80s. It's a black comedy, a dark comedy from the 80s. So my guess is there were powerful people involved, and they protected Jeffrey Epstein. That's just my guess.
I probably am with you on this one. I mean, I shouldn't say probably. I am with you on this one. I think there's more to the story. And I think everybody affiliated with this, anybody who enabled him, he's obviously a convicted sex offender, but with the new allegations, I think everybody needs to be investigated.
Do you think that we're going to get to the bottom of this, or do you think there's once more time they'll pull punches?
I'm sure we probably may not ever know. There might be some people who are connected in some way, but very powerful names. I bet they'll evade any sort of responsibility if, in fact, there are really powerful people involved.
The reason I keep relating it to Smollett Gate is if we're going to take the deep dive, have 3 separate investigations of what Kim Fox knew and when did she know it on Smollett Gate, I want to see that same vigor.
No, I agree. I think there needs to be more. I think I even said to someone the other day, I think I thought it was surprising that the judge that was appointed to investigate whether we need a special prosecutor, when the county government was already looking into it, I thought it would be another one. I don't know if we need one. I think we just need one investigation in it. I think everybody would be satisfied. But yeah, I see what you're saying, and I agree with you.
Yeah, I think actually you said that on this show to me. You were talking about that. The Inspector General, I think is Blanchard is his name.
Patrick Blanchard.
He's investigating him, and now there's going to be a special prosecutor investigating Smollett Gate. So hey, let's hope we have 2 investigations into Jeffrey Epstein. I kind of doubt that we're going to get that, but maybe I'll be wrong in this one. All right, let's go move on. You mentioned R. Kelly. Speaking of bad behavior by men, the latest story breaking, he's been indicted by the feds, and turns out he was trying to buy off the family of his accuser.
That's what. That's from the 2008 criminal trial. He actually was walking his dog yesterday. And he was, I think, apprehended while walking his dog, and he's been charged in a federal case now. as we know, in 2008, he was charged with having sex with a minor, raping a young woman, shouldn't even say woman, girl. And he ended up being acquitted in that case. Now he's currently being charged in 4 separate cases on the county side at 26th and Cal. But now there's a federal indictment, and he's actually up. He probably was up in court a few minutes ago, 1:45 for his bond hearing. But yeah, that's happening right now. And his 2 people in his entourage were also charged because supposedly there was videotaped evidence, prosecutors saying there were videotaped evidence of him raping young girls, and those tapes disappeared at some point. So these guys, the 2 men that were charged along with him, his co-defendants in this federal case, had paid several $1,000s to get those videotapes back. So R. Kelly has more legal troubles as we're speaking today.
But I don't. Correct me if I'm wrong. Did you cover the R. Kelly trial?
You know what? I got assigned to 26 in California in 2008, like just a few months after he was acquitted. But I did help the criminal courts reporter back then. I remember going to some preliminary hearings involving R. Kelly. So I remember seeing him, but I never was at the trial. But I remember going to the home of one of the jurors. We're all sent at that time. We had enough reporters to go chase jurors, and so we had one person per juror. And I remember going. Like it was a really far suburb. I forgot where, but I kind of just sat outside the house.
Wait,
and
time
waited.
out. There were so many reporters that there were 12 jurors and there were 12 reporters.
The names that we got, they sent me to one bird. They got names. I think they had names of most of them, but they gave me a name and I went out and I just sat outside. The person never showed up, and I just sat outside and read a magazine and waited for the person to show up, and they never did.
They never showed up.
I was saying that was when we had more personnel.
What would you have done? Now, I've never been given that assignment. That's a tough assignment.
You never had to stake out any?
No, never had to stake out a juror.
Yeah,
so
I've done
juries
that before.
aren't they supposed to be confidential? Or
at 26 and Cal, they've given names out. I've covered cases where the subject matter was sensitive, like I did the Mumbai terrorist attacks. I covered that trial in federal court, and because of the sensitivity of the matter, the names of the jurors were never released. There's also different ways we can find out as reporters. If we find out where certain jurors are parked, we get their license plate numbers, and we've done that before. Those
sometimes reporters.
Not just us. A lot of, there was days where, I was the only reporter and the Tribune had 3 people there, like while I was covering high profile trials. Mm-hmm. And then I was like, why those reporters are there. Like while the other reporter, the beat reporters covering the case, those other reporters from the Tribune are like trying to find out where these guys are parked. Or sometimes though, jurors are brought in a bus from a different location and they're taken away. But there's been sheriff's deputies who've helped me out or told me they'll let me know where X and X is parked. I'm not going to say names, give names, but I've always been able to figure it out. And then there's some cases like, I chase jurors, because you see them leaving at the end of the day. If you stay till the end of a trial and, the verdict comes down and you're writing your story really quick and you sometimes stand there waiting for family members of either the victim or the suspect, then you'll see like a group of people being let out and you recognize the faces from covering the trial. And at that point, the trial's over. So you can they're fair game. But a lot of times they won't talk to you. They're kind of filed in.
Yeah, so what's the approach? Give us a sense of what the approach is. Here you are, you're the reporter.
So you just go, hi, so-and-so, or you just, hi, ma'am, hi, hi, mister, or whatever that person's name is. And then you ask them,
Do you tell them who you are?
Yeah, I always tell, it's very unethical just to pretend that you're not a reporter. Yeah. I always say, I'm Ramana Hussain, I'm with the Sun-Times. And one of the things I should tell you is when I first started off as a journalist, I worked at City News Bureau. And I remember I was at the police station. I'd call people and go, hi, my name is Ramana Hussain. I'm a reporter with City News Bureau. And then these cops pulled me aside and they go, I know you're trying to do your job, but you shouldn't even use that word reporter. Just say you're with City News Bureau because people hear that word reporter and they're not going to talk to you. You can just say, I'm Romana and I'm with the Sun-Times. He goes, people hear reporter and they freak out.
Wow.
They go, we can tell you as cops, just don't use that word. So they kind of gave me that tip. They just said that people will be willing to talk to you more if you don't even mention that word. So now when I call, I've always said, this is Romana Hussein, I'm with the Sun-Times. I don't say I'm a reporter with the Sun-Times. I say I'm with the Sun-Times.
With the Sun-Times.
That was a tip I got from cops.
That's a cop give you good advice.
Yeah.
So have you ever had an instance where a juror that you went up to said, you've got no business asking me?
Yeah, of course. Well, we have people saying that all the time, especially when you're covering criminal courts. Like, what are you doing? Why are you covering this? I mean, I've had defense attorneys yell at me because I wrote about the suspect's past crimes in the paper. They're like, that's not. I'm like, well, it's public record. And, I've had judges yell at me doing a story about a trial that's happening. One judge yelled at me and said, you're not supposed to be writing a story until after the trial's done. I'm like, that's not true.
Where's that judge from?
I'm not going to say the name of the judge until after, but I remember, and then he saw me, then afterwards, he's like, well, I go, that's not true. I go, I've written stories all the time about, people yell at you all the time.
That's funny. You're not supposed to write a story about.
He's like, you aren't supposed to write a story until the trial's over. And I'm like, what? And he yelled at me from the bench.
In front of everybody.
Yeah.
Do you think he actually believed that? I mean, has he never seen a newspaper?
No, I think he was sensitive about the case, but yeah. And I mean, people always come up to you and, you have to do that. I remember the first time I had to call someone whose child was a victim of a crime, and it was actually a really sad story. I was so scared, but now I'm not anymore. I mean, I just know that you have to be polite to people. And when I do approach people, I try to be as polite as possible. I said, we just want to know your thoughts on the trial and how you came up with the verdict when you're talking to jurors. And you just try to be as polite as possible. Yeah. Even if people yell at you, you just have to be like, hey, I'm just trying to do my job. And a lot of times people do understand. But yeah, we get yelled at all the time.
Going back to Kelly, the R. Kelly case versus the Jeffrey Epstein case, my sense of it is that R. Kelly got off way back when, largely because he was a celebrity, he had money, he could hire a good lawyer. I don't have the feeling, and correct me if you feel differently, that he had somebody powerful intervening behind the scenes. I have that sense with Epstein.
No, and I'm sorry, you did mention in this indictment that came out, there is that portion where it said that he pressured the girl's family. Yeah. Sorry, you talked about it, and then I went off on a tangent.
Yeah.
I don't think there was anybody... There was no allegations or, thought of whether, somebody from higher on top. But I think with the R. Kelly thing, I think there was a lot of social commentary with his case because, he's an African-American man. And a lot of people in the African-American community felt like, this is just people trying to bring down an successful African-American man. And then there was a lot of pushback from, certain, Mary Mitchell wrote about this and other African-American writers wrote about what about the African-American female victims? They were mostly African-American female victims. And I don't know if you saw did you watch the documentary?
No, not watched it yet.
Which is interesting because, Jim DeRogatis and Abden Palish and other reporters, Mary Mitchell had written ad nauseum about this case. And that's why I'm saying there was this cultural, I think people are just saying but then when they had this documentary, you had the faces of the victims and the people talking about what happened, these women talking about what happened to them.
Yeah.
And so that kind of changed everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's interesting. And then they mentioned, a couple people on the documentary were mentioning that if these victims were young white girls, they think R. Kelly would have been convicted back then.
Yeah.
So
even in 2008.
2008.
Yeah. So much has changed, Romana. Just attitudes have changed, and we live through the changes. So we don't really have that moment to reflect on them. But I've been talking obsessively about Stranger Things. But there are scenes in Stranger Things where this young girl is working as an intern, a summer intern for the newspaper, and is being treated dismissively, and you could tell that this scene was written from the perspective of somebody who's living
2019.
2019.
Well, that's why I find it really funny because it's like They're like pound. I like it. I like Stranger Things, and the first 2 episodes for this season kind of started off slow for me.
Yeah.
And I just thought it was like, oh God, it's 80s overkill, and I'm around the same
That's your
age.
generation.
This is my generation. And I was like, okay,
You're those kids' age.
yeah,
You were on
exactly.
that bicycle.
I was a lot gawkier. I'm like, these kids are too old now. The problem is when you watch the first show, especially the boys, they look cute in their like little like 10-year-old outfits. Now they look like they're too big for the clothes they're wearing. I'm like, I don't think they should be. I don't think guys dress like that. I know those guys are supposed to be the dorky kids, but it's like they're kind of like they're like their legs are too long for their shorts. It's just kind of funny. They look like little kids now. They're like in that like awkward growing phase. But it's like I felt like when you were growing up in the 80s, it wasn't like you were talking about 80s pop culture all the time, which is what they're showing on the show, and it's like pounding you over the head, and it's definitely aimed towards people of my generation. But then it's like there's definitely parts in the show where I'm like, yeah, no guy in the 80s would have like picked up on like, oh, this is a Me Too incident. So like, or like women aren't getting respected, and it was probably discussed, but I thought the boyfriend was too understanding when she goes, oh, you don't understand what I'm going through, and he's in the beginning he didn't, but then he's like, yeah, I was wrong.
All right, we're not going to give spoilers on the show, but I got to tell you, I was up late last night. I watched the whole thing. I'm done with season 3.
I have about almost 1.5 left.
All right, now every week you come on the show and you acknowledge, you confess that you're a Cub fan, that your brother has season tickets, or if they're in the family, I don't know who controls them, and so you maintain your loyalty to the team. And then every week it seems like the Ricketts do something that would strain your loyalty. The latest, I'll probably be writing about this because it merges so many of my interests, has to do with this property tax scam by Todd Ricketts, who is one of the owners of the team with his property. I think it's in Wilmette, some North Shore suburb. And so talk about that a little bit. Yeah, so apparently Todd Ricketts, who's the finance chair of the Republican Party. In addition to owning the Cubs, yes. He basically had a custom-built mansion built in 2010. And I guess they bought 2 properties in Wilmette, 2 smaller properties, and made a big mansion on top of it. And it turns out that he's only paying property taxes for, I think, one of the homes. Well, what the value of that original home was back then. And I mean, that house is still expensive. It's like, wasn't like 900 something, or it would have been. And so he was paying like maybe 22,000, and he should have been paying, but with the new house and the mansion, it should have been like 30,000. Yeah. That's what the calculations are. And according to, and the Tribune is the one I think that broke the story. You gotta give him credit. We have to give credit. Yeah. And so basically now the assessor's office and the board of review, I think, are investigating, and they're saying that I think when you do, my mom had the house that I grew up in totally got rehabbed. So we had to tell, the village. And then, you have to tell the assessor's office, because then the taxes go up because it's upgraded. Right. It's more valuable, the property. I think the assessor's office said that they were never informed. And Todd Ricketts said that my lawyer handled all of this. That's what I think. That's what lawyer under the bus. I think that's what the story said. So, and I don't know that much about. I haven't had many mansions built, so I don't know what the protocol is. But I think I read somewhere that can happen sometimes. But I don't know. I think it said that they did alert. They had to tell the village that they're doing this. Yeah. And I don't know. I think the property owner has to tell the assessor's office, from what I understand. All right, come on now. You're being way too easy. No, I'm just saying. I'm not saying that he didn't. I'm just saying that he said that his lawyer was responsible, or he had a lawyer handle it. Yeah. No. I'm not. But the other Ricketts brother lives in Wilmette too. Which Tom. It's supposedly nice Ricketts. Yeah, the nice one, the nice cuddly Ricketts. One. Because my brother lives in Wilmette too. I did not know that. So they were. They hang out together. No. But when this whole thing happened about the Islamophobic emails came out, Tom Ricketts reached out to my brother. Yes, I knew that. Yeah. So my brother, he talked to my brother, and
he was saying that his father isn't a racist, and then they started talking about Wilmette schools because my brother lives in a more modest house in Wilmette. He doesn't live
he
in
lives
a
on the
he
rough
lives in
side of Wilmette.
the rough side,
the other side of the tracks in Wilmette. No, here's my attitude.
No. I do think I just feel like when you have so much money, because I think the other property tax owners have to bear the brunt of what he's not paying. So it's terrible.
We all do.
And he's obviously someone that can afford it.
Yeah.
He's not like he's someone who's like.
Well, this is the same. It's a similar thing with J.B. Pritzker. So J.B.
toilet?
Pritzker with the toilet gate, and it's people who clearly understand how the system works and what they have to do to take advantages of the system, so they pay less in taxes. And you're absolutely correct. The less they pay in taxes, the more everybody else pays in taxes on some fractional level, because we have to compensate for the money that the taxing bodies aren't getting from them.
Yeah.
And
it's not, like I said, it's chump change for him.
Right. So has this finally tipped it, and now you're going to be a Sox fan? You're going to give up that Cubs for
I'm never going to be a Sox fan, but I should tell you that I had tickets for Monday's game, and I'm giving it to a Sox fan.
Oh.
So.
Okay.
So.
Wait, you mean the Monday?
Game coming up on Monday.
Okay.
I had tickets for Monday's game.
All right. So before we let you go, we have to get a recommendation from you. I know you have a big recommendation. We, again, passed each other in the hallway. We both love this movie. Tell everybody the movie they have to run, don't walk to see.
I watched Yesterday last week, and I have to preface this with saying I'm a Beatles fan, and that was one of the first bands me and my older sister discovered, because when they had UHF, I'm dating myself, me and my sister, we turned on the TV and there was a Beatles cartoon. And so Yesterday is a movie about this guy who, the electricity all over the world, there's like a big fuse, and everybody forgets certain things, including the Beatles, that they existed. And so he kind of is like this struggling musician, and he starts singing their songs.
He's the only man in the world who remembers the Beatles for some fluke reason.
Well, I'm not gonna give anything away.
But
anyway, I think the critics thought it was like average movie, but just word of mouth. Like people are like, no, it's actually kind of fun. And that's what it is. It's fun. You suspend your imagination and you go and watch it. And it was fun. And like I said, I like the Beatles. So I don't know. Maybe if it was someone else, I wouldn't be as excited. But there's a lot of jokes about the Beatles. And I thought it was funny. If you like the Beatles, you'll like it. And, it's obviously like, I know some critics are saying that there's like actually no Beatles music. And I'm like, well, that's the point. It's like this guy has to sing it on his own. And he kind of like makes a song. The song's a little different.
Said that?
Yeah, I read that somewhere. They're like, oh, it's a karaoke movie. And it is kind of, but at the same time, it has its charm. And, when I saw the movie, my two of my siblings saw it with a friend, and they told me that, they told me they liked it. So I was like, okay, maybe I want to go see it. I'm like, I want to, see a movie. I want to see it. I wanted to see one since I saw the trailers, and I saw it, and people, after we're done watching it, people clapped. And then there was this older woman singing Hey Jude in the bathroom when I was going to the bathroom. And so I'm just saying, like, and then my younger sister, I was telling her, I'm like, people actually clapped. And she goes, no, they did the same thing when they saw it.
Yeah.
They saw the movie. They said people were clapping. So it's kind of like a fun, feel-good movie. And it's actually, it's making a lot more money than they anticipated.
Yeah, well, I once again, I have to disagree with most of the critics. They didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody. I love Bohemian Rhapsody. They didn't like Yesterday. I loved Yesterday. I am with Ramona 100% on Yesterday. Run, don't walk to see it. But if you do not like the Beatles, don't bother. Don't waste your time.
Yeah, some people hate the. I know it's not cool to.
Beatles.
I know it's not cool to like the Beatles, but I've always liked the Beatles.
All right, now let's all sing Yesterday. Yesterday.
Wow, man.
Actually, they didn't play that. And that was one of the songs. I don't think he ever. No, he did sing it. No, you're right. No, you're right. Oh, I guess there's.
That was a huge scene.
No, you're right. You're right. That was the first scene.
Spoiler alert.
But they did have the Beatles playing at the end. They had Hey Jude playing at the end during the
love that song, Hey Jude.
So I liked it, and I thought that scene, everybody was talking about that one scene that had him choked up.
There's a lot of scenes in the movie Heavy Choke, but I'm an old
But you know
guy.
what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I was choked up at the end of Stranger Things. What can I tell you, man? I got some issues.
By the monster? Did the monster make you cry?
I cannot tell you how it ends because I don't want to be one of those guys that does the spoilers. Okay,
The monster made him cry.
yeah, I kind of like the monster. Anyway, Romana, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks.
As always, it's the Romana Rundown every Friday in the Ben Joravsky Show. And what movie are you going to see this weekend?
I wanted to see The Farewell with Aquafina, but I don't think it's out yet.
Only they treat us like we're dummies.
In New York, right?
New York, L.A.,
But
Chicago's
it's gotten like 4-star reviews, and I really liked Aquafina's performance in Crazy Rich Asians. She was the friend.
Yeah.
And this movie is supposed to be excellent, and it's based on the director's experiences with her own grandma.
Yeah, I want to see that movie too. Every time I see it, like tears well up. The commercial, I mean, when I see the preview, it's like very moving.
So that's my next movie that I'm going to see.
All right, very good. That's Romana Hussein. I'm Ben Joravsky. We'll be right back after this. Did you know that 40% of the people in Illinois opt to be cremated? Well, it's true. And Chicagoland Cremation Options honors their wishes by providing cremation services directly to the general public. Chicagoland Cremation Options provides an affordable, ethical, and easy cremation arrangement, whether in person or online. Save thousands and streamline the process by going directly to Chicagoland Cremation Options. It's a family-owned business operated by my good friend, Douglas Klein. Here's how you reach them. ChicagolandCremationOptions.com. One more time, ChicagolandCremationOptions.com.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Discover the breadth and majesty of Chicago's architecture on a Chicago Architecture Center bus tour. From bungalows to Bauhaus, our expert docents will share the fascinating stories behind our city's architecture. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a bus tour right now. Oh my, look at that wonderful piece of architecture. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident.
Ben, what was that update again?
Bernie Sanders is falling behind in the polls. Is that what the update was?
Yeah, what you were just saying, that's what you said?
Oh, yeah. I was just reading this. Update, breaking news.
All right, good job breaking news there. All right, so let's talk about the Chicago Sun-Times, huh? Our friends and co-hosts at the Chicago Sun-Times are offering you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all of the stories you love. Unlock every feature, video, and podcast just like the Ben Joravsky Show by signing up now for a digital subscription. Ben, you love digital subscriptions, right?
Yes, I do.
All right. Not only does he read his paper every day, he digitally subscribes to things. For a limited time only, you can test out digital access for only $1. Seriously, $1. People like me who ride the bus can afford that one. There's no reason to not give it a shot. Stay up to date on breaking stories, get the deep dives and investigations from Sun-Times reporters, cheer for the big games with the best sports team in the city, and go deep inside City Hall with best in-class political reporting. $1 for your first month. You can't do better than that unless they made it 50 cents. What would be the point of that? $1. $1. Nice, firm price. Hour number 2 of your Ben Joravsky Show for Friday, July 12th is just moments away. But before we get into that, we need to thank the following unions for jumping on board and helping bring back the Ben Joravsky Show. First up, it's the International Association of Machinists and Aerospace, Not Aerosmith Workers, Local 126 and District 8, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 9, and the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 150. Thank you once again to those unions for jumping on board. And of course, today's program is brought to you by our good friends at the Chicago Federation of Labor. Hour number 2, let's go. Thank goodness it is Friday, July 12th, and live from the Chicago Sun-Times Chicago Reader Studio on Racine Avenue, this is the Ben Joravsky Show. In this hour of the program, it's the return of the Heartland Mamas. And we welcome back our good friend and host of the Doris Davenport Show, Doris Davenport. And now your host of the Ben Joravsky Show. Yeah. Chicago Reader columnist Ben Joravsky.
Yes, indeed. The Heartland Mamas are on their way. Hold on. Here they are in their car.
Where? Oh, that's a fake car.
Boom, driving their car. They're on their way. Doris Davenport.
Oh, she's in a fake car too.
Boom. She's on her way, bringing Mr. Precious. They're all on their way. They'll be here any moment now. And
can you please explain who Mr. Precious is?
Oh, Mr. Precious is Doris Davenport's dog.
Thank you.
All right, yeah.
For those who don't know, that sounded a little weird.
Yeah.
Just bringing Mr. Precious. That could be anybody.
The last time Doris was on the show, Mr. Precious was here, and he had a chain, was it a collar that was ringing?
It was with bells.
Ringing, and Dr. D, who's an old school, very old school guy for a millennial, was like,
notice those mints aren't there anymore?
He's tough, man. He took the mints. Who was it that blew it for everybody?
Okay, we don't want to put her on blast, but it was Susana Mendoza.
Yeah, Mendoza. You
Seriously,
blew it for everybody.
The only way you can hear you hear us, right? Yeah. So if someone's got a lifesaver in their mouth.
Well, we used to have, thanks to Mark Sims, we had a bowl of mints on the guest table. And our guest went, oh, this is so nice of you. And I just thought of it, even though it was Mark Sims. And
you hear this?
Yeah. Well, Susanna.
Like, all right, this is a horrible idea.
Yeah. So
I love the bowl.
Dr. D's like, that's it. The guy's tough, by the way. Don't let that little nice guy demeanor fool you. The guy really calls the shots.
I tell you what, come January 1st, we're putting pot in that bowl.
Why?
Or cannabis, sorry.
Cannabis, D. Cannabis, get it right. Anyway, so he moved the ball. The ball's still there, so, when you... Before and after, you can have it, but not while you're sitting.
It was cool for a little bit. Then all of a sudden, people were, eating lifesavers on the show. Like, all right.
Didn't Danny Weissman, we did do that yesterday, pop one in and
he took 8 of them. Home with them. No, I'm just kidding.
Young Daniel Weissman, can I just say this? Can I just give a shout out to some of our show? He came in for a bonus. This is the guy who hosts the Arm and a Leg podcast, an excellent podcast. The man knows more about healthcare than anyone in the universe. We had a delightful interview. It's going to be a bonus, probably a week from this Saturday. We're ahead of ourselves on bonuses, Steve.
My, oh my.
And it was a really great time listening to him. He's a funny guy, Dan Weissman, and very informative. Anyway, I think he was the one chomping down on those lifesavers yesterday.
And speaking of bonus interviews, yes, we live stream every Tuesday through Friday. And yes, we have those shows available for you to download. But the weekend is upon us, and that means a new batch of Benny J bonus interviews will be available for you to download. And like we always do, we have 3, count them 3, bonus interviews this weekend. So when you get some downtime, make sure to download our Benny J bonus interviews as soon as they become available. Here's this weekend's lineup. Our first interview will be available Saturday by 6 a.m.
Number 1.
It's a property tax bonus interview special with ProPublica reporter Jason Grotto. Ben, give us a sneak preview
of our interview.
Well,
it's not just property tax. We tie it all together. Jason Grotto, great investigative reporter for ProPublica, did the groundbreaking work on property taxes and was probably responsible as much as anyone else for alerting people to some of the inequities in our property tax system. And that led to the voter rebellion in 2018, last year, in the March primary, in which Joe Barrios, the incumbent assessor, was ousted and Fritz Keiki was ushered in. So property taxes are going out, folks. I hate to break it to you. You're getting the bad news if you own property. If you don't own property and you're a renter, you're still going to get the bad news because they're probably going to pass the property tax hikes on you to form a higher rent. Sorry about that, D, but it's going to happen to you too.
Damn it.
Yeah, and so Jason sort of breaks down some of the stories on property taxes, but links into the expansion of gambling in the state of Illinois. He's been really hot on the gambling story, talking about how Illinois is becoming the Vegas of the Midwest, and how it's an attempt to find other forms of money. So maybe we're not as dependent on the property tax, and it's not really working out the way everybody thought it would be or what they hoped it would be. So Jason Grotto knows he would take the deep dive, a very informative interview with Jason on property taxes and gambling.
All right, quick question. Which is worse, being the Vegas of the Midwest with these casinos or being the Jacksonville, Florida of the Midwest with this gator?
I would definitely say the Vegas and the gator is a vaguely entertaining story. Expanding gambling in the state of Illinois is really drawing in suckers to throw away their money to fund government because we don't know how else to do it. Also, by the way, what Jason kind of revealed, that there's financial interests behind the expansion of gambling. But as you recall, he said, I'm not ready to come out with that because we're working.
You reporters, man, you keep it close.
Yeah, they keep it close. I know, that's that old. I don't want to be scooped, so I'm not going to say. But anyway, so he suggested. Yeah, but I think it's absolutely. I'll take a gator over Vegas any day. Probably some gators in Vegas, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah. The Vegas Gators. I'm sure that's like a low tier football team too. All right. So that's our Saturday interview. It'll be available by 6 a.m. tomorrow. On to our Sunday bonus interview.
Number 2.
We called them the political love couple.
Oh, yeah.
And no, they didn't make out during the interview. We kept them apart. Hey, come on. Wow, they tried.
Yeah.
It's political operative and dear friend of the Ben Joravsky program, Kitty Kurth, and her husband, Kevin Lampe, both work for the presidential campaign of no, not Bernie, no, not Biden, not Buttigieg, Beto, or Warren, but the Marianne Williamson campaign.
No. Well, first of all, Kitty and Kevin have been around for a while. They're not as old as I am, but they're almost as old as I am, and they've been around in politics for a long time. So we really take the deep dive in the presidential race. But yes, they are working for Marianne Williamson. They gave me a button. There's my Marianne Williamson button. They were at the debate on behalf of Marianne Williamson, the debate in Miami, and they're going to be the one coming up in Detroit at the end of the month. Interesting stuff. Kitty and I went on this tangent. I've known Kitty for a long time, and she worked for was it not Dukakis, Paul Tsongas' campaign in 1991, and that was the first time Bill Clinton ran for president. 1992, he was elected, of course, and at the time, I remember having discussions with Kitty. Giving away part of the interview, but having discussions with Kitty where I was sort of
a tease.
That's what it.
Got to give him a reason to download. You know what I mean?
And I was infatuated with Bill Clinton, and she was trying to tell me that Paul Tsongas, who seemed so boring, and he's just, he didn't have the charisma and the personality of Bill Clinton. And now I'm starting to realize the Democrats really signed a deal with the devil when they hooked in with Bill Clinton. Not just his policies, his middle-of-the-road policies, where he moves, constantly moving right to win over swing voters, Republicans, instead of standing up for whatever Democratic values or principles he had. But the man is so sleazy, and the Democrats are constantly defending him throughout the 90s and into this century, constantly saying, oh, yeah, well, look at his Supreme Court nominees or something like that. Or always trying to defend Bill Clinton's lousy character and personality, or not his personality, but his lousy character and his lousy behavior, his sexist behavior. And now his name has been linked to Jeffrey Epstein. I'm just getting tired of having to defend Bill Clinton. I don't even like defending him at all. And I feel like, I was bamboozled in the 90s. That's kind of where I'm feeling. So Kitty and I took the deep dive on that as well.
Oh, these mints
hey,
are delicious.
Get that mint away.
Sorry, let me get it out. Sorry. See what I'm saying? It's tempting. They're good. All right. And finally, Monday's interview.
Number 3.
By the way, Sunday, 6 a.m., Kitty Kurth, Kevin Lampe will be available. All right. Our Monday interview, these two are no strangers to this program. They will be coming in after today's show to record. It's State Senator Toy Hutchinson along with Personal Pack CEO Ben. Did you bring your big boy pants?
Yeah,
by the way?
Terry Cosgrove.
Mr. Put on your big boy pants himself, Terry Cosgrove. Ben, give us a preview.
Well,
of what
we'll be
you're gonna
talking
talk
a lot about the struggle for reproductive rights in this country. Terry Cosgrove is the executive director of Personal Pack, the leading reproductive rights pack in the state of Illinois, and as such are probably responsible as anyone for having such a liberal state in regards on this issue. And Toy Hutchinson led the charge as a senator, so we'll be taking a deep dive there. And I personally do not know. This is one of my favorite issues. I've talked about it on the show. The way the Republicans are trying to say there's equivalency between the Democrats' position of protecting the reproductive rights of women on just a limited basis, a minimal basis, if you will, and Republicans who have these extreme laws that they're passing throughout the country, including like Alabama, where you're criminalizing abortion, threatening to put doctors in jail for abortions. We'll probably be talking about the case in Alabama, a very bizarre case in which, I don't know if you folks have followed this, where there was a woman who was pregnant, got into a fight with another woman and was shot by the other woman. The fetus died, the baby died, and the state of Alabama was going to charge the woman who was pregnant for her role in that matter, endangering the life of her fetus. Very bizarre. They weren't going to charge the shooter, but they were going to charge the woman who was pregnant. So I believe a lot of these red states, these Republican states, have lost their mind on this issue, and we'll probably be talking about that as well.
So there you go. Toy Hutchinson and Terry Cosgrove. That'll be available Monday by 5 a.m. because I know people got to get to work early on Monday. So 5 a.m. that'll be available. Once again, Jason Grotto on Saturday, the political love couple, Kitty Kurth and Kevin Lampe on Sunday, Toy Hutchinson and Terry Cosgrove on Monday. These interviews are available at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. Chicago.suntimes.com/Joravsky, ChicagoReader.com, or wherever else you download your favorite podcast, Google Play, Apple Podcasts. We're now on Spotify. Tell your friends. It's our Benny J bonus interview. Sorry, YouTubers and live streamers. We do not have that available on YouTube. You got to download it, all right? Okay, on to update number 2. Right now posted on both Ben Joravsky Facebook and Twitter pages. It's the latest Chicago Reader column from our very own Ben Joravsky. This week's article is titled Right-Wing Snowflakes. And Ben, I think you may be right about your talent for headlines. Man, give it like a 4.
Oh,
Right-wing
4 out of what?
10.
Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you.
Tell us what we'll expect in
Oh
this
my God,
article.
it should be like 0 because it's terrible. I'm a terrible headline
He's not
writer.
great at headlines.
Oh my goodness. I should,
He's good at the rest of the part.
Yeah,
of
the rest of the
story.
story. Now, I am utterly obsessed with this story. There was a column I've written out twice about it. Bret Stevens, a columnist for the New York Times, a conservative columnist for the New York Times, wrote a column soon after the Democratic debate, and I think their headline was like "Wretched Start for the Democrats."
Oh, take notes, buddy. That's at least a 6.
Well, I think my snowflakes headline is better than that. Anyway, the premise of Bret Stevens' column was that the Democrats are guaranteeing the reelection of Donald Trump because they've moved too far to the left. And he watched the exchanges and came away with the assumption that the people who watched that debate would believe that the Democrats only want to represent people who speak. I don't have the exact quote of me. He came it down to this paragraph that they speak Spanish, we don't. They don't work, we do. They don't pay taxes, we do. And it was like he went into the mind of someone who had the most bigoted attitude toward Spanish-speaking people in this country, to Hispanics or Latinos in this country, and he did it in such a way without saying this is not my belief. He didn't make it clear that he wasn't saying I believe this. He was you could read that and think he believed it, or he didn't make it clear that I find this an abomination, that I find this offensive. He made it seem as though it was justifiable, and so there was a response, as you might expect. When he wrote this column, people who read it accused him of being a bigot and a racist. And what was his response to their response? Instead of looking in the mirror and saying, maybe I didn't handle that the best way, maybe I didn't make it clear that I don't agree with this position, he counterpunched. And he accused the people who were mad at him of sort of trampling on his rights of free expression. He accused them of being political correct fanatics who would deny somebody on the right the opportunity just to speak his mind. And this is a popular theme. I've been following this and talking about this for a long time, D. People on the right, they want the freedom to insult anybody that they disagree with. So if they want to insult Spanish-speaking people, they should be free to insult them. If they want to insult blacks, women, etc., they should be free to insult them. If there's a response or a reaction that by people who are outraged, then the right says you're a snowflake. You can't handle criticism. You are too much a slave of political correctness. So they're always quick to say, I believe in free expression when they want to insult somebody. And when someone gets hurt, they go, you can't take it. Flip the switch, though. Flip the switch, and then they're crying like little babies. And there's Bret Stevens. I'm Bret Stevens. You insulted me. And he's bad. He's hurt because people said he was a bigot and a racist. Well, you sure sound like one. And so I addressed that issue. I've been talking about this in the air for a while. This first time I ever attempted to put it into a column. This double standard. People on the right say they want to have free expression. They want to have an exchange of ideas. So generally that means they want the right to insult somebody else. And when they've offended other people, they say, "Oh, you can't handle it." Not that I offended you. They never want to apologize for it. They behave like Donald Trump. And so that's sort of the issue I debate. We see this all the time. This is standard operating procedure. And by the way, they've convinced a lot of Democrats. A lot of Democrats are convinced that they're very apologetic. A lot of liberals out there will apologize. So for instance, if a university, what's old boy's name?
Old boy.
Yeah, the blogger who's always insulting. I talk about him all the time. He used to work for Breitbart. Anyway, he wants to insult women and feminists, etc. Yiannopoulos, or what is his name?
Oh, Milo Yiannopoulos.
Yeah, Milo. Milo wants to come to a college campus and insult everybody. And the students pull back the invitation, then liberals will be apologizing. Oh, well, we should encourage free speech. You've gone too far. You know what I'm saying? So they buy into it. And I'm just saying, when is it going to be a two-way street? Why do liberals always have to apologize whenever a conservative is offended? But conservatives don't have to apologize whenever they offend liberals. So anyway, that's sort of the issue I deal with in that story.
So there you are. Go check it out. It's posted on both Facebook and Twitter pages at Benny J Show, BENNY, the letter J Show, the latest Chicago Reader column from our very own Ben Joravsky. The headline, I don't know, right-wing snowflakes. Studio audience, how do we feel about that headline there, right-wing snowflakes? Oh, nothing.
Yeah, they don't like it.
All right, we'll get better at that. And before we go to break here, let's read some comments here on our YouTube live stream chat. They've been weighing in here a little bit. Shout out to everybody who's done that. You guys are awesome. First up here on the live stream chat, feel free, if you're listening live, by the way, to check it out. Go to YouTube and the Chicago Sun-Times and join the live stream chat. Subscribe and hit like, too. I heard that's pretty good as well. So, looking at your comments here. Oh, Johnny Joe, he's really fun. Oh, I got to turn the crickets off. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. Johnny Joe says, hey, if they want to get that gator out of Chicago, send them a property tax bill. It works for everybody else.
Speaking of which, Doris Davenport has dropped down all the Cook County tax rates released. So, Johnny Joe, this will really get you going when you see this.
Stephen, haven't seen you in a while, Stephen. How's it going? He says, city controllers, Susana Mendoza, can't handle mints. I read all about it.
Yeah, man, she can't. She opened that candy. That's why poor Doris Davenport's not going to have a mint, because Susana Mendoza.
All right, everybody, we'll be right back. Stick around.
Read the Chicago Reader to get up to speed on what's what in Chicago. Culture, food, arts and entertainment, weekly concert listings, weekly event listings, the environment, travel. I can continue, but you get the point. And for all of you Chicago political junkies, raw weekly columns on real city politics from Maya Dukmasova and our very own Ben Joravsky. The Chicago Reader, free to the public in newsstands throughout the city and online at chicagoreader.com. Read it now and be a more informed Chicagoan.
It's Chicagoland's adult entertainment playground. It's the world-famous Admiral Theater, 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. The Admiral is homegrown from Chicago, and it's the most conveniently located club in all of the city. 15 minutes from the O'Hare Airport in downtown Chicago Loop. Voted Chicago's best strip club, the Admiral has showgirls galore and a variety of adult entertainment shows. The world-famous Admiral Theater, open every day from 7 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3940 West Lawrence Avenue. For events, showtime, and other information, visit AdmiralX.com. Must be 18 years of age or older to enter.
The Ben Joravsky Show is supported by the Northwestern Summer Writers Conference. Now in its 15th year, the 3-day conference held in Chicago features a diverse array of workshops, speakers, discussions, and readings. Learn more at sps.northwestern.edu/writers.
The Ben Joravsky Show is brought to you in part by Green Element Resale. It's located at 6241 North Broadway in Chicago, and people, it's awesome. All right, just listen to this. Furniture, appliances, lamps, books, clothes, electronics. It's a thrift shop, but it's the only thrift shop in Chicago that helps bring you the Ben Joravsky Show. Boy, what was that? So if you're ever on Broadway between Granville and Devon, tell them thank you. And go check out Green Element Resale, 6241 North Broadway, and find more information at greenelementresale.com. Green Element Resale. Go there now and save. Whoa! Tons of money. Oh, my goodness. Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show, live from the Chicago Sun-Times.
Yes, indeed. We're live from the Chicago Sun-Times. Doris Davenport has joined me, one of my favorite guests of all time. Doris Davenport, the host of a show called The Doris Davenport Show.
Go figure.
Yeah, go figure. 2 Doris Davenport shows. Not 1, but 2, including one on that radio station. What's the name of that radio station, D?
WCU Later. Someone on the live stream chat came up with that. I can't take credit.
WCU don't want to be you.
Excuse me, it's WCPT.
Oh, yeah.
Where facts matter on Saturday mornings from 10 to 11.
Well, they may matter at Saturday morning at 10 to 11, but okay. Sorry, that was uncalled for. That was uncalled for.
And Sunday evenings from 6 to 8 on WPNA.
Mm-hmm. I've been a guest on that show in Oak Park. And
for new listeners, by the way, that joke, let's get you in on the joke. That last station fired Ben.
Oh, no.
Yeah, man, it wasn't that bad. Anyway, all right. That was ancient history, D. We moved on, all right?
Long time ago.
Long time ago.
Stop singing.
I heard you dissing the conservatives before I came in.
What's that? Oh, my God. This is one of my favorite things. It started with this guy, Bret Stevens. He writes a column for the New York Times. I just talked about this. And he wrote a column which was very insulting to Spanish-speaking people, Hispanics in this country. And the bigotry embedded in this column were outrageous. He got the response. People were outraged, angered. They called him a racist and a bigot. And instead of responding with a column explaining, apologizing or trying to explain what I meant to say was XYZ, he did what most conservatives do when they're called out for their bigoted behavior. They cry like the little babies that they are. You're being politically correct. Instead of looking in the mirror ever, when's the next conservative going to look in the mirror and go, you know what, maybe I'll reassess how I behave, what I say, what I do this all the time. That's to a fault. I'm always going to should I have said this?
It's so true. It's just like Kellyanne Conway. she's got a real big mouth, but she got smacked down on Twitter just yesterday, and I think it was Congresswoman Candace Owens that smacked her down.
Candace Owens isn't a congresswoman.
What was the name of what was her name?
Candace Owens is a right winger. I don't know who.
Oh, no. I was telling. Oh, you thought. No. So it was Kelly Conway who got smacked down, but this was one of the new black congresswomen. And I've seen her on MSNBC several times. But anyway, Conway said something to her on Twitter, and it was she was being nasty. Yeah. She was being a mean girl. And so the congresswoman came back and she called her distraction Becky. And she said, "Keep my name out of your lying mouth." And Twitter went crazy.
That's probably why it crashed yesterday.
Probably. But you didn't hear another word from Kelly Conway. Yeah. So that's the point. They're like bullies.
Well, they are bullies. I take like out of that sentence. They are bullies, and they've successfully bullied many Democrats.
Yes.
Democrats go around talking, I don't want to be politically correct, and we shouldn't be so politically correct.
Right.
And I do not believe people should have free reign to insult other people.
I agree. but if you come with it.
Bring it, baby. So this dude, Bret Stevens, is like, something, they counterpunched him. He broke down. Like, you're so mean to me.
Yeah,
or not. I just never, I hate fights, never get into fights. When I was a kid, I got beat up a couple times. That's not my thing. You know what I mean?
Well, you know what? I have to say that I'm a pretty passive individual. I don't get riled up, but the couple of times that I have, and I have, when I was a child, 2 people that I can recall, and probably the school will witness it, they did test it, and it wasn't a pretty picture.
All right, so you say you don't get riled up, but I know you have to be riled up by the Jeffrey Epstein case. We've been talking about this a lot on the show, and my personal belief is that somebody made a call. I've been talking about this for a while now, that somebody made a call to the prosecutors to get the prosecutors to go easy, lay down on Jeffrey Epstein. That's my guess. It happened both in Florida and it happened in New York. That's my guess. I don't have the behavior of the prosecutors just doesn't make any sense on any other level. What do you think?
I think that I think you're absolutely right. I think a deal was made. And even when you look at from the legal analysts have all been talking about this. And one of the things that they say is, first of all, there's a lot of boilerplate language missing from this deal. There's certain forms and that lawyers use when they're crafting settlements, and a lot of that was left out. And that one word, global, is what everything is kind of hinging on, whether he's able to get off or not, because it says that he's going to be free of his global activities. He admitted guilt. He's guilty. You know, when people say, allegedly, no. He admitted guilt, and a deal was made. And that deal is clearly an inside deal. You know, Labor Secretary stepped down.
Yeah,
finally.
I did. We were talking about that. By the way, Heidi Henry has battled the traffic.
My girls, they have arrived.
Maria, they battled. You guys were stuck in traffic. Where were you?
We were on the Stevenson.
The Stevenson was a nightmare.
That was a nightmare?
It never takes that long. It took us almost 2 hours to just get up and through to Ashland to take the exit.
The Heartland Mamas. Heidi, tell everybody who the Heartland Mamas are and how you got your name and where they can find you, that kind of thing.
Well, we got our name. Marie Briel and I are both mamas. We met on the campaign trail in 2018. Was it 2018? Yeah.
2017.
2017.
Yeah.
And we became fast friends, and we decided we weren't done with the conversation yet.
That's why you wanted to continue. And you were on the show with Doris about a month or so ago. It was so much fun. I thought
it was so good to see Doris.
It's a lot of love. A lot of love.
There's a lot of love in here.
A lot of love in the studio.
I'd like a day to bring you guys on my show.
And
traffic.
The question I was asking you, Doris, I'm going to get a little more specific with it. And the Heartland Mamas, Heidi Murray, I want you to listen and come up with a response to this as well. I believe a phone call was made. I personally believe that someone intervened on behalf of Epstein, both in Florida and New York, and that's why the prosecutors were so lenient. And my question to you is, one, do you agree with me that a phone call was made, or some people were intervening on his behalf? And two, if you do,
even today, what came out is that the witnesses in this case, they have evidence that he sent people out to harass them, to sex trafficking of kids. Look at the criminal penalties. They get off so easily. Why? Because most of them are white men.
Very true.
Well, and the laws are designed to make it more difficult for trafficking victims to come forward.
That's true.
Everything about it makes it harder.
But why do you think so?
Oh, because it's a lucrative business. I personally think the largest reason behind trafficking is greed.
Yeah.
Human greed.
Yeah.
Because it is ridiculously lucrative. It's under the radar. Your chances of getting caught are far less than they are anything else. You can exploit labor. You can exploit children. You can exploit pretty much anyone who's down on their luck. It's a brilliant plan. And if somebody goes, Heidi and I just did a show on trafficking. We have a part 1 and our part 2 will be coming out on Monday. And the I-80 corridor is huge for trafficking.
Yeah. The I-80 corridor is a very, living along that corridor for the last 30 years, people don't understand the issue of how people are moved back and forth. And the fact that they come out to rural Illinois or rural America to do that is because our police forces are small. We're usually understaffed. We're usually undertrained to deal with these issues. And we were talking not only the exotic spas that are opened out by us, that are difficult to raid, difficult to control. And when you do shut one down, you can't figure out who owns it.
That's a big part of the problem.
Yeah.
Several states have introduced some legislation which looks to demystify the business registration process. But the United States, with the lax regulation, it is the easiest place to register a business because there's no federal requirement.
Yeah.
So down in Florida, I don't even have to be the owner listed. I can be an agent, someone you pay that lives in Florida who has nothing to do with it. The shell corporations and the way it goes back. So we want federal legislation that says, hey, we need a standard here. So if we do find sex trafficking, we can bring a whole ring down.
Well,
Not
we
just
want federal
parlor.
legislation, but we also want regulation, right? I mean, you've got we want
Absolutely,
the policies
yes.
in place under the
Yes,
Trump administration.
yes.
He has deregulated almost every single industry.
Guys, but just so you know,
Yeah.
it was against the law what Jeffrey Epstein did.
Yeah.
And the laws which existed to punish him, they didn't prosecute him to the full extent that they had.
Now, given what you just said, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Between Epstein and R. Kelly.
Okay.
R. Kelly, do you think that between the two of them that they will both have to stay in jail until their trial? Epstein can afford his bail.
I do not believe. I hope I'm not naive. I've been in the bubble, so I don't know what news has been breaking on the Epstein case. I do not believe a judge will grant him bail at this stage. I believe that it would be too embarrassing, and it would just show the disparity in the system. Too much for them to take. So I personally do not believe in this case that judge. As I say this, Doris, I'm just thinking, man, I'm putting too much faith in the system.
Well, he wants bail. His lawyers are asking for him to have an ankle monitor and to he put up his private jet as collateral. He put up his mansion as collateral,
Talk
but he
about a
wants to
flight
live
risk.
it out in his condo, which is the largest piece of private real estate in New York, is my understanding.
Yes.
I listen.
While R. Kelly, both of them need to be underneath the jail.
Yeah.
But R. Kelly is broke, so he's going to jail.
Right.
He's going to
Well,
spend
and you
some
said,
time.
would they face the same amount of time?
Yeah, that's the
or
question.
the same being in without bail or remanded? Honestly, if R. Kelly had the money, he wouldn't sit in jail either.
I think he would.
Really?
I
think it's
because
all
now
about
he's got
the
federal
dinner.
charges against him.
Well, now with the federal charges, I think you're right. But before, we've watched here in our area R. Kelly skate in and out of jail and in and out of trouble.
That was
forever.
before Kim Fox came.
Before Kim Fox. Thank God for Kim Fox because she wasn't playing. You
Yes.
know, she stepped out and took care of the victims.
Yeah.
And I was proud of her, and I've never met her.
Well, I had a conversation with Romano before this at the start of the show. The contrasting the R. Kelly case contrasted with the Jeffrey Epstein case, and the difference I make is I believe that somebody intervened on behalf of Jeffrey Epstein, a powerful person or persons who are unknown. Calls were made, and we talk about the calls being made to Kim Fox in the Smollett case. Calls were made. Okay, we're making a big deal about those calls, but we're not making a big deal about the other calls. And in R. Kelly's case, I don't believe calls were made to powerful people, to prosecutors on his behalf. I think that's an instance back in the day of wealth and celebrity and good lawyers prevailing. We've seen this story a few times. So I think I'm not saying what happened with R. Kelly was good. I'm just saying I don't think it is quite the same as what went down with Jeffrey Epstein. What do you think?
I think you're right. And I think one of the, not last time, but the time before that I was here, we had a conversation and I brought up Michelle Obama's name and I did do the homework on it. So there was no evidence that she and Tina Chen had talked. It was speculation.
Yes.
That because Tina worked for her and Michelle did know the family too, that there was some conversation, but we don't know that.
Well, that's the guy. You're not the only person. There was somebody else who came on this show and said, drop that name. And I'm like, what? Michelle Obama? And that was just raw speculation. Nobody knows that. And it's just like me speculating about who called on behalf of Epstein. I mean, when you see what those prosecutors did and how lenient they were and how tolerant they were and how they bent over backwards, particularly in the matter in New York, where they dropped his ranking from like sex predator to like sex offender.
Yes.
I'm like,
really? Wait a minute.
Yeah, wait.
Money talks.
So who would be behind that would be the question, right? Like, we don't know. It could come from either side. He knew very many powerful people. I think the story talks about his Harvard connections and the money that he gave blackmailing people. So where would it come from?
I don't know. My guess, it's bipartisan and
yes.
Democrats and Republicans.
Well, you know what? You have just said something, because what we do know is that Mr. Bill Clinton himself spent many a plane ride alongside Epstein.
Yeah, I throw his name out there. And that, by the way, we're going to take a break. I'm going to come back, and I'm going to throw out the Bill Clinton question that I've been throwing out all week ever since I started thinking about Bill Clinton's connection to this sleazy Epstein, and that is this. In 1992, Bill Clinton beat George Herbert Walker Bush for president. Would we, as a Democratic Party and as a country, have been better if Bush won that election? We're going to ask the Heartland Mamas and Doris Davenport to answer that question when we return.
This is a awfully big body of water. We're looking for a needle in a haystack. And we're talking about a needle that moves constantly.
He's checked the floating traps he hand curated.
Right now it's a combination of drumsticks, rats, and smelt.
Yum.
Well, as far as the gator goes, that's a pretty good offering. We're hoping that the wind blowing the scent across the water will catch his attention.
We're all speculating on whether he grew up in somebody's, bathtub or backyard or something.
He's enjoying the 5 feet of water. He probably was raised in 6 inches. If we could find the animal, we can capture the animal.
Today's Ben Joravsky Show was brought to you in part by Chicago Architecture Center. Discover the breadth and majesty of Chicago's architecture on a Chicago Architecture Center bus tour. From bungalows to Bauhaus, our expert docents will share the fascinating stories behind our city's architecture. Book your tour at architecture.org/tours. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm actually on a bus tour right now. Oh my, look at that wonderful piece of architecture. Get a special discount for Illinois residents from July 15th to August 15th. All Illinois residents get 50% off select walking tours. Visit architecture.org/IL-resident.
Our friends and co-hosts at the Chicago Sun-Times are offering you, our listeners, an exclusive deal on unlimited digital access to all of the stories you love. Ben has been so excited about this ever since we've been talking about it, all right? He loves subscribing digitally. Unlock every feature, video, and podcast, just like the Ben Joravsky Show, by signing up now for your digital subscription. For a limited time only, you can lock in our lowest rate yet, only $29.99 for a full year of all the news that you need to know. Stay up to date on breaking stories, get the deep dives and investigations from Sun-Times reporters, cheer for the big game with the best sports team in the city, and go deep inside City Hall with best in-class political reporting. $29.99 for a full year of unlimited access. Oh, Ben has just been online like crazy getting this unlimited access. He loves it. You can't do better than that. Take advantage of this exclusive deal now at suntimes.com/Ben.
Hey, everybody, what you're about to hear are the piano stylings of Jeff Manuel. Man, listen to Jeff go. Jeff Manuel has been playing piano around Chicago for years. He's played for conventions, for celebrities, played in basement bars with blues bands. He's played at prestigious social clubs, fine restaurants, and in the intimacy of private homes. Book Jeff Manuel at jeffemanuelpianist.com. Don't worry, I'll spell his name at the end of this commercial. You know what Chicago Magazine said? They said that Jeff Manuel is, quote, as comfortable with Chopin as he is with Cole Porter. He's excellent and his performance is joyous. He offers an elegant stream of compositions and interpretations that entertains the mind but won't hurt the ears. To hear more of Jeff Manuel's work and to book Jeff for your next event, go to jeffmanuelpianist.com. I'm going to spell it out for you, people. Jeff. M as in Mary, A, N as in Nancy. UELPIANIST.com. Take it away, Jeff Manuel.
All right, people, it's almost time. Can you feel it in the air? Yeah, it's summer, humidity, it's kind of hot. But Square Roots Festival is this weekend. That's right. 50 bands and artists from, oh my Lord, 50 bands like these guys interrupted me. All right, it's good music, so it's fine. 50 bands and artists from around the world will entertain on 4 stages. Your donations support Lincoln Square, Ravenswood Chamber of Commerce's free concerts and farmers markets, and Old Town School of Folk Music's financial aid programs and outreach programming. It's this weekend. In fact, they're setting up for it right now. July 12th, 13th, 14th. It's Square Roots Festival. Follow on social media. Just search for Square Roots Festival. It's all this weekend. Ben Joravsky's going to be there. Look for him. Just look for the guy in the Bulls hat talking about TIFFs. Square Roots Festival this weekend.
Give a little, take a little. Let your poor heart bleed, baby, little, but baby, that's the glory of love.
Welcome back to the Ben Joravsky Show. Mr. Joravsky, take us home.
We're not ready to go home yet. We're going to let a clock go a little longer. Everybody got stuck in traffic. We're going to continue this conversation. Heidi Henry, Murray Brio, and of course the great Doris Davenport.
And Mr. Precious.
And Mr. Precious.
Yeah.
Mr. Precious looking very precious.
That's her dog.
Yeah, it's her dog, Doris Davenport's dog.
Mr. Precious.
And Doris Davenport playing the keyboards there. Wow, how about that, huh? Yeah, Doris Davenport. Good. She can talk. She can do political consulting.
I'm just going to give her a nickname. Elton Jane.
As long as it's not Becky.
No.
Yeah, don't call her Becky.
No. Not Becky. No, that's
all right.
Right.
So, Doris Davenport, I'd raised the question. Now you're going to be the first to answer. We're going to go right down the line. Would we as a civilization, as a Democratic Party, as a country, the United States of America, have been better off if George Bush had won in 92 and we would have been spared William Jefferson Clinton as President of the United States and leader of the Democratic Party? Go.
Well, this music is so funny. Well, let me say this first. Mm-hmm. We all know that Bill Clinton was absolutely a master at politics.
Yes.
He is a master politician. Now, I don't know if that's where he got his name Slick Willie from or not, but would we be better off? What I can say is I don't think we could have been any worse off. And maybe we would have been better off. I actually liked Papa Bush. And I'd have to say that when you think about the criminal justice system today, it was Bill Clinton who passed all those policies that locked up so many black and brown people. All those disparaging sentencing for cocaine and, those things happened under his watch. All of the, I think that's one of the number one things. I think black people were duped with his saxophone playing and his loving to, Rahm Emanuel tried to do some of that, but he bombed every time.
Yeah.
When Bill Clinton got around black people, his days in Arkansas, down in the country, he knew exactly what to do and what to say, and it served him well. Mm-hmm. But I think those two, they're not that far apart. Bill Clinton was a Democrat, but if you look at his policies and a lot of the things that he did, I think the best thing he did was the White House Conference on Small Business, which was the only office I've ever run for. I was elected by the state of Illinois to represent the state of Illinois. So I continue to be that representative until there's another White House Conference on Small Business.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you think I was one of the people. I was really taken in by Clinton and was almost embarrassed how much I thought, because he infuriated Republicans. And I got immense satisfaction of watching how frustrated they were.
Yeah.
Because he was Slick Willie, and he could talk his way out of anything.
Anything, including Monica Lewinsky.
Yeah.
Had Hillary on Nightline or Oprah's show or somewhere defending him.
Yeah. a lot of Democratic women defended him. When you think about this, Heidi Henry, do you think the Democratic Party sold out its values by defending Clinton for so strenuously all those years?
I don't think so, because we knew who he was before we elected him. And we absolutely knew that he was a dog.
Dirty dog.
Dirty dog. And, when I look at that, would he have been better off, or would the country have been better off? No, I think we were better off having elected Clinton. I really believe that some of the things he did, especially what Doris was talking about with the changes in the judicial system, are things that we're still trying to rectify now. And I don't know how we undo all of that damage. So I agree with you 100%.
Yeah, I think we're all kind of on the same page there. I don't agree that it would have been better to have Bush elected again. I think even though he made a lot of mistakes and did a lot of stupid things, he still advanced ideas that needed to be advanced at that particular time. Hillary had 8 years of trying to get universal health care started back then. If we hadn't have had that discussion and started that discussion for another 12 years, what would have happened? Okay, we'd be 12 years behind where we are right now. It's just terrifying. Yeah. So, and think about a lot of the policies that we got involved in, especially foreign policy and being a peacekeeper, but really to exploit other countries. I gotta say, I can't say that we'd be in a better place. I think it needed to happen when it happened for the nation.
The thing that I think about, is Clinton was a master of talking and bringing people together. And he would always talk about developing more world partners than world enemies, right? So I think that we needed that, and we need more of it. We need to be less the enemy of the world and the boss, the enforcer that we have become. Under him, it seemed like we had a calmer world, a much calmer world. At that time when he was in office, I was a welfare to work counselor. And for all the faults of that program, there were some really good things. I saw some women really evolve past where they were and be able to go out into the workforce and become more than they ever thought they would be. The program was deeply flawed, but the premise of it was good. I think a lot of things, once you invite everybody to the table, it becomes different than what it started out to be. But I did enjoy, helping people grow and get past that part of their life.
Well, you said something, Heidi, when you were talking about Clinton. We knew he was a dog.
Yeah.
And when you said that, a lot of Republican women say that about Donald Trump.
Yes.
Yeah, we know he's a dog. And then they'll go, but Clinton was a dog too, okay? So it's sort of like that's used to excuse Donald Trump. And oh boy, down in Alabama, I'm blanking on his name, who was
Roy Moore?
Yeah, Roy Moore, who's beyond dog, okay? And then a Republican,
God.
Well, you had Clinton, and I wonder, do you have the Democrats, by embracing Bill Clinton? I'm guilty of it too.
Okay.
I voted for him twice.
Okay, I voted for him once. My husband talked me into voting. I know. Look at me shocked. Like my husband.
That's it. Heartland Mamas is now breaking up. She didn't vote for him.
God rest his
I'm out.
It's one of those things where he got me on the pro train for to vote, and then afterwards I'm like, how the hell did I get here? But so, Ben, honest to God, I don't think the sexual litmus test has any value, because if you think about what came out of the Monica Lewinsky thing, we got the moral majority. Look at the guys that were on the moral majority, for God's sake. Every single one of them was a dog. Hiding their dogness, right?
Hiding it very well.
Yeah. But we, after the curtain was parted, we're like, how can these guys be the moral majority? We're all screwed at this.
And look at what we got now.
Well, and see, the thing is that really the test we want? I mean, I'm all about integrity and honesty. If you've got problems in your marriage, Donald Trump, I feel bad for any woman that has to spend time with him. But we knew who he was when he got elected. We knew who Bill Clinton was when he got elected.
I don't know if I necessarily buy that and I get what you're saying though. Yeah, we knew he was a dog. We knew he was slick.
Right.
I don't think anybody would have believed he did what he would have done, what he was doing in the Oval Office underneath the desk.
Oh dear
with
God.
an intern. That kind of dog level, I don't think we really knew.
But
but I just want to say that remember that black community in Philadelphia,
yes,
where the police bombed
it.
Now, the reason that I can draw a parallel line there is because that action was taken with the consent of the black community. But after it happened, the black community said, well, we didn't know you were going to bomb them and kill all those people and children. We wanted you to do something about it. Well,
right.
I do, and a lot of black congressmen and senators, congressmen voted with Bill Clinton on those hardcore criminal justice laws.
Bobby Rush.
Yeah, but I think they would tell you now, but we had no idea what the impact would really be.
Well,
we wanted, they would never say they signed their name to lock up thousands and thousands of black people.
Yeah.
Well, in talking about the dogness, okay, with Clinton, he had a very salacious affair, right? He is not
that we know of one.
Well, that we know of one, right? Yeah. The thing is if we go back to, back in history, we know that he's not the only one. And I would rather judge his presidency not by Monica Lewinsky, which the moral majority would have us judge it by, but by the other things that he did that were good and learn from the things that he did that were really bad.
All right. Let me just, I'm going to direct this to you. To me, the issue of whether he was unfaithful to his wife, whether he played around, whether he was a womanizer, is one thing. Because that's, you were saying, like other presidents have been that. It's the accusations of sexual assault. It's the accusations of using his power as a governor to force women to have sex with him, and then using his power as a governor to cover up these deeds, and then using his power as a political personality to demonize the women, trash the women. That's Bill Clinton.
That's right.
That's Bill Clinton. There's a lot of dogs out there who have affairs, but
that's a whole nother level. That's right. I agree with you. I do agree with you. And I will no longer say, and I hear you on let's judge him by the things he did, but not by his moral character. I vehemently disagree, because that's how we got in. That's how we got where we are with this man in the White House, by separating the two. We need to be able to parallel those things when we're voting for people. If we're not willing to look at their moral compass and understand who they are, what their character is, then I don't think what they say really doesn't matter much anymore.
Back in the day, we didn't have social media. We didn't have the internet. It was not even tubes yet. Or the congressman that said it was tubes, sorry.
Which congressman said that?
I can't remember, but he called it, there's a bunch of tubes connected. And that's what he said.
I remember that.
Okay. But in that day, yes, there was news, but there wasn't the 24-hour news cycle. There was newspaper news, and rural places still have those issues with getting communication even today. So do you really think that we would have known about what Clinton had done? I
wish we could do a quick Google search to see how many women came forward and said that they were sexually assaulted or something.
We knew. Oh my God!
So I think we did then what we're doing now, and that's just we turned a blind eye to the women. We didn't listen. We didn't give them space or voice, and we didn't need Google. We didn't need the internet for that, though.
Doris, that's my. Oh, I'm sorry, Heidi. That's my point. I just want to say this real quick: is that it's the women.
There's a tug of war going on.
We're gonna box over it, man.
Those Heartland Mamas.
No, we don't. We're country girls, we'll take them out. But I think, you're absolutely right. It's not about whether he was a dog and he abused his position. Positions have been abused from anyone who has ever been over a woman in any position. Whether you go to McDonald's down the street,
that doesn't make it right.
And my neighbor who's an immigrant
giving them a green pass.
No. But I'm saying now at least people are willing to say something. 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was unheard of to come forward. That's why we had those few cases that did. So yeah, we were just not valued. I'm sorry, Doris. 20, 30 years ago, so what if I made a woman have sex with me if she wanted to? It's the same mentality today. Nothing's changed.
Well, and so what I was going to say is I'm not excusing his bad behavior, and I'm certainly not excusing Trump's, but we did not have as much information on Bill Clinton at the time we really needed it. Does it detract from, like Ben, I was completely, blown away by how his charisma and his way of delivering a message, and the fact that he's a very educated, intelligent man, right? So he's able to deliver his messages with a lot of grace. But when you go back and you look at it now, you think, oh my God, what a monster! Is he as big a monster as Trump? There's a big part of me that hopes not, but at the same time,
he just has nicer white gloves.
Well, and that's the thing. Was he able to hide it better?
Well, all right, guys. I don't have my computer in front of me, but I have my memory, and I have not gone out to dinosaur land yet. So I still have some vivid memories, and one of the memories I have is a 60-minute interview with Hillary and Bill Clinton in 1992, right around the time of the New Hampshire primary, I want to say, where Hillary defended him. Members of the Tammy Wynette.
Yes, I remember.
She goes, "I'm not just going to stand by my man," or something like that. And she was out there defending Bill Clinton.
Because that was her job.
Yeah. But the point is, we knew.
I think even she believed him.
A FLOTUS.
I will never forget that one interview Hillary Clinton gave after he was accused. There was no evidence of anything. And she stood by and said, "This is a smear job. They're trying to smear my husband."
Yes.
And the next day, she was silent. And you knew he must have come out and told her the truth because he let her hang out there.
Absolutely.
And I was so embarrassed for her.
Yeah, I'm with you 100% on this
when
one.
you were talking about how you had so much information at the time that you knew what was going on, there's a big difference because you're here in Chicago. I was out in LaSalle County, down in Bloomington, Illinois, where we had a newspaper, but the TV, you got the news, it's half hour, and they didn't discuss it on TV. They censored what we got in our local newspaper because it was a town of 1,600 people, so we didn't get as much information. I remember my mom and dad not knowing.
And remember, how are we going to explain this to the children? Come on. How are we going to explain? This is what I would hear on TV all the time. How am I ever going to explain to the children what happened in the Oval Office? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
And now we have pictures of our FLOTUS. I've seen more of her than I've seen of my own mom.
Yeah.
So I just did a quick Google search just because we have it here. And so we're talking about sexual assault. He was accused in 1978 of rape by a woman in, it doesn't say where she was, but her name was Juanita Broderick.
Juanita Broderick.
There were 4 people who accused him before.
Juanita Broderick. And listen, and I'm as guilty as anybody when I say this. In 1992, I was so sick of 12 years of Republicans, and
Weren't we all?
For all the Clarence Thomas appointment to the Supreme Court was one of the most cynical acts I've ever seen of a president.
Still trying to figure that one out.
He put it, replacing Thurgood Marshall with Clarence Thomas doesn't get any more cynical than that. Well, they're both black, so there we go. So I was really happy that Clinton won, and I was happy that he could infuriate them, and I wanted not to pay attention to these stories, and I just believe that we've paid for that.
Yeah.
Do you hear me?
We have paid for that.
Yeah.
And I think even somebody like myself that has, a half a dozen of Me Too movements, even when I heard it, I was like, well, people accuse people. I couldn't even find it within myself as somebody who had lived through, not a rape but other assault. And knowing, I just couldn't, I couldn't find it in myself to criticize him. I thought, well, maybe they were just in the wrong place at the wrong time. And haven't we all evolved since then, right? Haven't we all had like a come into Jesus meeting?
All right, now I'm going to bring it into the presidential race. We get your comments on the presidential race, but I just got to think this. The last, I want to say, 3 Democratic conventions, Bill Clinton has had a prominent role.
Yes.
He's given for Hillary. He gave that big which that's when I really started losing it. By the way, Doris, when Billy he talked, I love her, and then he just didn't mention,
that's right.
What he did to her. I love her so much, and
Good impression.
I've been watching Clinton a long time. Even he likes it.
Good.
Yeah, and so in 2008 he gave the case for Obama, and then 2012 he gave the case, and I'm like, oh man, Clinton can really, he can talk, blah blah blah. I don't think in 2020 Bill Clinton will be invited to the convention. What do you think?
It would be one of the stupidest mistakes that the Democratic Party had ever made if they put him up there at this point. Not only because of the Epstein connection, which I do believe has him and Trump shaking in their boots.
Yeah.
Has a lot of people.
But I also believe that when Hillary Clinton ran, it is my personal belief that Bill Clinton did not want her to win, because if you go back and listen to almost any speech he gave, there were certain
stuff,
things
right?
that he would say,
and knew
I'm
better.
like, what is your problem?
Wait, hold
you're
on.
right.
Oh, yes.
There were examples.
Yes.
I
He would give
remember
these-
that.
He's too smart for that.
You think it's passive aggressive?
Oh,
Yes,
I do.
yes. I don't think he wanted her to
wasn't
win.
about to be first man. Oh no.
You know,
Man, that is
could
some
it be
deep
that his
stuff.
ego
Yeah.
is bigger than his ambition?
What's that?
His ego is bigger than his
absolutely. His ego is definitely
Wait,
bigger
hold on,
than his
Doris
ambition.
Davenport. I've known you
said
for a
it.
long time.
I said
don't
it.
believe I've heard this theory of yours.
Yes.
So you're telling me that Bill Clinton, even though outwardly he was saying, I want my wife.
Oh,
I'm not
it
going
was
to
so
do the imitation
passive
anymore.
aggressive.
Your one good impression, man. It's good.
Oh, keep that. Keep that. Put that in the portfolio.
What's your John Cass?
I really don't know what John Cass is. I love Trump. I've never met John Cass. I just love Trump. That's John Cass. Oh, he's a great guy. I really have a lot of imitations, but I've just heard Clinton through the years. I've just absorbed Clinton. I've studied Clinton.
Well, he's got that nice sing-songy
drawl.
But he come in here right now. He goes,
to it,
Doris Davenport, I know your daddy down in New York City.
I remember we were on the dance floor with Al Gore dancing with those stupid red hearts on our head. That happened.
Yeah. Okay. So wait a minute. So you're telling me that he had inside this, even though outwardly he was saying, I love Hillary, I want her to win, she's great, inside he couldn't control himself. There was this impulse.
Yes.
Every time I can, I'm going to undercut her.
Yes, that is
I don't
exactly
even.
what
I
I'm
wouldn't
saying.
even be surprised if some of those statements weren't calculated all along.
On his
not
part, I believe
undercut
it.
So
her.
what statement are you talking? I can't.
You know what? I can't
forever
pinpoint
ago
it right
in
now,
news cycle.
But just for you, I will go back and watch a couple of his speeches
I will
during
too. We'll
the
send-
election.
we'll
And
send
next time
him
we
some,
come
yeah.
together, why don't we talk about
Yeah,
that?
well, I could talk about Clinton all day.
But yeah, because I promise you, when you hear them, you're going to say,
Yep,
"Oh
that's
yeah,
not right.
I never
Something
thought about
didn't
it when I
fit,
heard it
didn't
because
make
it was
sense,
him."
but it didn't
You'd
trigger
listen
an
and say,
outright.
"She needs to sit him down.
Right.
He does not need to speak on her behalf at another rally."
And look at the very end when he met on the tarmac.
Yeah.
I mean that you knew
that's
that
right.
would explode
That's
everything
right.
that she had left.
Oh, he
was-
knew
that
that.
was.
With
But
Loretta
he's
Lynch.
He knew
a
better.
He was a president. He knew better.
Yeah.
He knows presidential politics.
Yeah.
He did that on purpose.
He
I
did.
swear.
Wow.
I believe it.
Listen, Clinton, I think you're a dirty dog, but even I didn't accuse you undercutting Hillary. All right, so let's. So we all agree that Bill Clinton will not be invited to speak at the 2020 Democratic
Yeah,
Convention,
agree.
unless the Democrats have lost their freaking
Unless
minds.
they have lost their freaking minds.
Which is always
Yeah.
possible, Doris.
Oh, gosh.
My beloved Democratic Party. I know. Let's lose. Let's bring Bill Clinton out
Right.
again. I love you all. All right. So I haven't talked to you since the debates.
I know.
Who are your three words from the debates?
All right,
Your
my
three.
top 3. Biden, Kamala, Warren.
Wait, hold on. Now, when you say this, Biden, Kamala, Warren, is that in order, or is that just you name them?
I think I'm just naming them, but the first 2, those have always been my 2 top. They were my top 2 from the beginning, and they remain my top 2. I can't deny Warren all of what she is. She has worked harder than anybody consistently. She's laid out her policies on a very great level. But I would like to see a Biden-Kamala ticket. And frankly, this might sound sexist and maybe even a little bit racist. But I would love to see the white man be the wingman for the sister girl.
Oh God, yeah, absolutely.
Well, he's good at being a wingman.
But he will never be a vice president.
I mean, right?
That's
He'll
he's
never
a
be
good
right?
wingman. By the way, I know we have 3 constitutional lawyers here. There's no prohibition on somebody being vice president, right?
No,
right.
not at all.
There is not.
He can go ahead and
He
do it.
can
But
do it, and he should.
wouldn't. There's not a chance he would.
Oh, you know what? I listened to that. Even Kamala going after him in that debate, I said, now that's what I'm talking about. The two of them, oh, yeah, they would really work well together.
Can you be a 2-time vice president?
That's what I was just asking.
Yeah, you can, there's no prohibition.
There's no prohibition.
That's what I was asking,
and you can be a vice president after you've been president, technically, too.
Yeah.
Oh, so she could have Barack Obama be her vice president.
She
Yeah.
could.
But wait a minute. What about like succession? Isn't that a problematic?
What do you mean?
Okay,
you would think it
let's
would
say, here we
Right, 'cause of
Constitution
vice
with
president.
them. So it's Vice President Barack Obama, okay, and Kamala Harris is the president, and then Kamala Harris says, you know what, I don't want to be president anymore. I'm stepping down. All right. So the natural succession is that the vice president becomes the
Which
president.
he would until the next election, or they'd hold a special election. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
that
but that would be a problem because he would not be able to serve. Is it 3 consecutive terms though, or no? It's 3 terms period, right?
Yeah,
But
it's
he wouldn't
terms,
be there
He
for a
couldn't run-
full term.
Yeah.
He would only be there for a part, and as.
But that's the
acting
legal
president.
question. Even that time would.
You'd have to see.
Where
Yeah, that'd be
are our
interesting.
lawyers when we need them?
But I don't see that.
It's not
ever
happening. Okay, all right, forget. And I don't think Biden would ever agree to be vice
I
president.
do.
I don't think he will.
No way.
You think-
1,
I
male
do.
ego. 2,
No,
he's
he
76 years
he
old.
proved he doesn't. He proved that his ego is not priority. If you look, this is why
I'm
this
sorry, Doris,
segregation
you're gonna
is-
make me laugh.
Well, laugh. This is why.
Doris Davenport with the counterpunch.
Oh my gosh! Because
Comes from the
this is
streets
why.
of New York City, baby.
Hello, Harlem, to be exact. This is what Country versus Harlem. But I spent half my time in the country.
Yes, you did.
You remember? We anyway. This is why that segregationist conversation, in my view, doesn't hurt him in the South. And the reason is because he's somebody who's proven himself. Yeah, he had to work with those old boys. He had to work with those old boys and get stuff done. Didn't mean that he agreed with the things, their moral compass about things, but being 8 years, being Barack Obama's wingman, how many times can you count? Not even on one hand can you. Times when his ego got in the way about being vice president to Barack
Not at all.
Obama. It
but
never
now,
happened.
here's the deal. He has been there and done that and wore the T-shirt.
Yeah.
If he doesn't win the nomination, is he really gonna wanna go back and do that again? No,
Why
he
not?
won't.
If you want to listen,
Nope.
if you like, let me answer. If you like being in that space of power, yes, you do that because otherwise you go back to regular life, and that ain't always so pretty.
And and I agree with you there, but I don't think Biden is going to last to that point, and I don't think he's going to be the vice presidential or presidential candidate. Just my opinion. However, he has such an amazing amount of rapport with the country. And I think that is what would carry him forward, is the fact that they really do love him. The country loves him and remembers the good old days with him and Barack. But here would be that dream ticket would be Biden Obama.
But why? Let me ask you.
Okay.
Let me ask you. Why do you think that he would not last? When you say you don't think he will last to be a nominee, tell me why you don't think he would last.
I think with watching the debates, because we went out and watched. Marie and I went out to two Democratic precinct or
Princeton, Illinois, and
Princeton, and Oswego, and you saw a bunch of people up on the stage. And the second night, it was a whole bunch of people with an agenda, and 2 men that were angry, had been there, done that, watched it all get undone, watched it advance the conversation on progressivism. And then now they have to defend it and do it again. And they both just looked exhausted. So I don't know if it's a stamina thing or if it's just like, geez, we've already done this. I'm over it.
I'm just not convinced that the electorate feels that way, because I think the electorate, frankly, in many places of our country, are exhausted trying to figure out what is a progressive.
Oh, yeah.
So my prediction is, Joe Biden will keep stepping in things and eventually wear his welcome out. And it's not his fault. He's a great guy. I love Joe. My two top choices, and I only have two, are Harris and Warren.
But you got to have three.
No, I got two. And then VPs, we have Julian Castro.
Yeah.
And Mayor Pete.
Oh, you Mayor Pete. Okay, I'm not
Borderline,
feeling him at all. I'm not feeling Mayor Pete.
The reason,
what do you like about Pete?
I like the demographic that he appeals to. I like that, just strictly who would make a great running mate with Senator Warren.
Oh, you're talking about as a running mate.
Not as a presidential. No.
Okay.
Castro and Buttigieg are VPs.
All right. And Heidi, your three?
My three would be Warren, Harris, and Castro. But I also want to give some props out to de Blasio. He impressed me in the...
God, you're nuts with
I
that
know. He said all the right things.
A lot of people liked him in the debate.
We're going to close this down with Dennis, introduce this segment.
All right, it's time for a segment here on the program where our editor, Leah, who is fantastic, man. She makes us look current on Facebook and Twitter. She's awesome. Incredible.
We love Leah.
And so we decided we'll give her own segment to end the show out. We call this segment Leah's Last Word.
All right.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Leah.
So you were talking a little bit about R. Kelly earlier. So my question today is, do you think people can separate an artist from their art? Are we still allowed to appreciate people's music even though they're kind of bad people?
Awesome question.
Can I answer?
All three of you.
Okay. I hate to cut Doris off because we're not working in sequential order now, but I had some R. Kelly on and some Michael Jackson, and I enjoy both of them. But I found that I took them off of my iTunes. I couldn't do it anymore. And yet, it's really hard because some of their songs were intricate in part of my life, but for me, that was something I couldn't separate.
Yeah, I think Heidi's right on that. It would be really hard. It was a great question, by the way. It'd be really hard to separate the two because, but at the same time, that is a heck of a question because there are artists that I still like. Prince was accused of having a domestic violence as it was Sinead, but I adore Prince. I think he's a genius. I think he's magical. But you're right. Where do you draw the line? That's an awesome. I have no idea.
I too, Leah, want to applaud you because that is a very, very good question. One we should ask ourselves a lot. I do think we should separate the artist from their art. And the reason that I say that is because I have to say, when it comes to R. Kelly, I make a very conscious decision about not outwardly playing his music. When I say outwardly, I don't mean I go home and boogie down on R. Kelly, but I would never have a party and put R. Kelly on. But I do think it's just there's so many artists out there. We have no idea of what they're doing, and we're partying to their music all day long. So people say, okay, but once you know. Well, we know it. This
with
goes
Bill
back,
Clinton.
I was just about to say, you guys said give Bill Clinton a pass. Don't.
No. I didn't
yeah,
say
you
give him
did.
A pass. I said. Ben's question was,
you said don't judge his presidency
would
by...
we be better off had Bush been
that was his question. That was his question, but you guys said doesn't matter what he did.
No. Okay, so
maybe
I said that incorrectly. We didn't have the information we needed to make the decisions that we needed. I don't think we were as evolved as a society to make those decisions. I think Melania knew what Trump was when she married him, and I don't think that changes. And I think we knew what he was when we elected him. So you get what you get, and you can pray over him all you want. You're not going to change him.
No, I'm going to be very upfront with you guys. I knew what Bill Clinton was about. I voted for him because he infuriated the Republicans.
Yeah.
And
so
now here I am 25 years later regretting that I voted for him because I think ultimately when you sell your soul to the devil, you're going to pay the price down the road. Now, having said that, I think Bill Clinton's Supreme Court nominees are way better than George Bush's.
I do agree too, but let me just say this too. I would hate to see the Cosby Show go off the air because of what Cosby did. And that is why I say what I did, because for the black community, what the Cosby Show was and is, for people who know nothing about who he is pretty phenomenal.
But don't you find yourself watching it and cringing?
No.
Oh, see, I do. I'm like, oh.
All right, we have run out of time. Our next two guests are actually waiting outside for a bonus interview.
Let's try and end it on a positive note here. We do have the Heartland Mamas here. They are from out of the city. They may have some experience in helping us here in this problem we're dealing with lately in Chicago. Heartland Mamas, I gotta ask, how the hell do we get that alligator out of the lagoon?
Okay, so it's so funny that you said this.
That's a good one.
Heidi and I were talking about this on the drive up.
Yeah.
And Heidi's like, can we just hang a big roast over it and let it jump out?
Oh.
And my thought was, no, well, you need the catcher pole, the dog catcher pole, because it's got to go around the neck.
Yeah.
You got to have one that goes under the arms, and then you get the tail. And she's talking about running away from it. And I'm like, what?
Wait, Heidi, you're the horse whisperer.
Okay. Yeah, like.
Okay, so horses don't have a great big gaping mouth with giant teeth, and they don't
but
come.
But you can put one to sleep, an alligator to sleep, by rubbing it between its nose and its eyes.
So you said put to sleep right after you talked about my horses, and you know. The thing with the alligator is, it's somebody's pet, so it's probably just as confused out there as he has. It's like a lost dog. He has no idea. He's only known humans as being a source of food and whoever cleans his tank. So that poor thing, whenever they round it up, he's
gonna be terrified.
Well, and he may end up at at Cajun Connection out by me, but
and they're out there every day. But they say he doesn't have to come up for food for 6 months because that's how long they can go.
You think those people are hanging around that lagoon looking for that?
Bob will be. What's the guy,
I'm
Bob?
sure that
Alligator Bob.
Well, can we get some poke salad? Because you keep singing that song, and then I was walking around the barn singing the poke salad.
You're the only one who knows that song.
I love that
Poke
song.
salad,
Sing
Annie.
it, Ben. Sing it.
Poke salad. Gators got your granny.
D.
Everybody said it was a shame. And on that note, we're going to close this show down. I want to thank Heidi Henry, Marie Brio, and the great Doris Davenport. Also want to thank Leah, our earlier guest, Romana Hussein, and of course, the man, the myth, the legend. And from Alton, Illinois, you know what they call him back in Alton, Doris? White Lightning.
No one calls me that.
Take care, Dennis. Get a great job. Give yourself a raise. Have a great weekend. See y'all.
And remember, you can download previous Ben Joravsky shows at both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites, chicago.suntimes.com/Joravsky, chicagoreader.com, and wherever else you download your favorite podcasts. Hey, downloaders, we live stream this program, right? Yeah, we do. Tuesdays through Fridays, 1 until 3 p.m. Central Time, both Chicago Sun-Times and Chicago Reader websites. And find the Chicago Sun-Times on YouTube and check us out there. Boy, there's a party going on in here. Let me get the bong out. See you all Tuesday.